is your,
If I may, I believe that question is actually properly directed to Ms. Wilkins.
okay. Well, Ms. Wilkins, what is your understanding? If you're gonna mute Ms. Wilkins, ask Ms. Wilkins, what is your understanding of how the health department's records reflect a partial payment?
My understanding is that if somebody's paid a ticket, it's a admission of guilt.
But it was only a portion of it was paid.
I do not have the my individual understanding of it, because again, I'm not the one that actually pulled up the record to specify which is the 3 and 2 years. That may be something I would have to consult somebody within the health department, what their position on it. My position may be different than someone else's position on it. When we
Ms.
issue the
Reinhardt.
ticket, our job is just to issue the ticket, so the payment is up to the violator.
Does the city, wait, let me finish. Does the city accept partial payments normally on tickets?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and when someone makes a partial payment, that is in fact, in your language, is that an admission of guilt?
It is.
Okay, I think that answers my question.
If I may clarify, however, it was
Mr. Chair, I'd like to follow up on that a minute.
Yes, please.
Could I please clarify first?
Wait. If we look at the record, it was stated at 8/28/19, a partial payment was made. And then the person went and appealed and won the appeal. What's the difference?
There was that was 8/28/19 matter, but the partial payment was made on the 3/4/20 matter.
I think that it was a partial payment made on the 8/28 matter.
Yeah, but she appealed it and she won. You raised a good point there. Let's do this. Because I want to hear the answer as well. Ms. Reinhardt, do you have clarification before we get back to this? Because it may reflect on the answer we get.
I do. I have 2 clarifications here. First of all, the only partial payment was on the 8/28/19 ticket. There was no partial payment on the 3/4/2020 ticket.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. There is no payment on the 3/4/2020 ticket, but there is also no appeal on the 3/4/2020 ticket. I can reserve the effect of that for the legal argument in order to just make sure that the witnesses are able to, direct the facts of what was done here.
Okay.
I believe that answers your question.
Okay, that answers, yeah. So just to be clear, there was no payment, partial or otherwise, on 3/4/20. Partial payment on 8/28/19, which was subsequently the violation was overturned on appeal.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. Mr. McCreesh, do you have, I'll go back to Ms. Reinhardt. Ms. Reinhardt, do you have any further witnesses?
I do not.
Okay, Mr. McCreesh, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I don't have any witnesses. I was going to call my client about the 8/28 one, because that's the one she said she won. But since the city admitted to that, I don't need to call her on that. So.
Okay, well, then we will move the final argument then. And Mr. McCreesh, if you would start off, then we'll have Ms. Reinhardt complete. Thank you.
Okay, so just real briefly, as you're familiar with the law, it says you need to have 3 in the 2-year period. And the payment is an admission. I understand that. The city has evidence that the first and second ones, the 5/29 and the 7/2, were paid. As to number 3, the 8/28, the city admitted that should not count, that she won the appeal on that. And then the 3/4, there was no payment made, so there's no admission on the 3/4. She did request a hearing, which the city admits. Whether she did everything she was supposed to. I think the city maybe has to, fine her in absentia or send a letter saying that, you've been found guilty of this. She never got, there's no finding of guilt is what I'm saying, and no admission of guilt on that 3-4 ticket. So I would argue that the 3-4 ticket should not count. The 828, the city admits, should not count. And therefore, there would only be 2 violations and not 3. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Reinhardt?
Thank you. We are in agreement regarding the first 2 violations, so I will not beleaguer that point. For the final ticket listed on 3-4, quite frankly, the only method that the permit holder had in order to dispute the facts of that ticket are to go through the appeal process. And the permit holder simply failed to do so by not responding to the letter. I can understand, and there was no reason given for that failure. At no point in time has the city been presented with any evidence or reason to believe that it was issued in error. Accordingly, and moreover, this is not the forum that we would even be able to consider whether an appeal or whether the facts underlying an individual ticket were sufficient. Therefore, because there are 3 instances of violations, I respectfully request that the city's determination be affirmed.
Okay, thank you very much. If there are no additional questions from the board members, we will poll the board on HA-2021.
I do have a question, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
It would seem that in the intervening period between the issuance of the ticket in March of 2020 and the notifications, and that was just the beginning of COVID, would the city not have, or should the city, the board that hears these appeals, have at least notified the appellant that even if you send a letter saying you have the right to request a hearing, if you don't get a request, similarly with the cases that we hear, we then send a letter saying your decision, the city's decision is affirmed for lack of appearance. There appears to be no final notification made by the city with respect to that appeal that was filed by the licensee. Is that correct, Ms. Reinhardt? I mean, it's one thing you file it, and it's another thing to say you ought to follow up, but then doesn't the city have a duty to notify the appellant that they didn't follow up and they've lost?
I would actually, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay.
I would respectfully say that the September 2020 letter indicating the steps in order to properly complete the appeal request was all the follow-up that was necessary. In-person appeals could not be possible. There was a request, please send in any kind of evidence that you would like considered, and an opportunity given to either have the appeal be heard by mail or virtually. So there are multiple options here, and they never followed up on that. And similarly, after getting this letter, they never followed up then. Because the denial letter was sent in December 2020. And even at that time, with it noted on the denial letter saying that the status, was not noted for the last violation, still at that time, they did not follow up in order to say, hey, what's going on with this appeal? So I would say that was the opportunity. And instead of following up with that last ticket, they simply appealed the denial of the permit itself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty, we will now poll the board. HA-2021-001017, 2901 Anthony Inc., 2901 North 27th Street, City Affirm.
City affirm.
City affirm.
City affirm.
Appeal sustained.
Thank you very much. The majority vote is City Affirm. Thank you so much. Have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, board. May Ms. Wilkins and Ms. Pugh please be dismissed.
Yes, they are
Thank you.
relieved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wade, what do we have next?
Let's see.
You muted, Mr. Wade.
That brings us to number 12 on the list. Hearing appeal number 2020-000-384, Devette Anderson, 723 West Fisher Avenue.
Okay, thank you. So who's representing the city in this matter?
Good afternoon. This is Michael Rulo on behalf of the city.
Okay, Mr. Rulo, and who's representing Devette Anderson, Fisher Avenue? I think that's her. She's muted. So would someone unmute her? Unless she has to do it herself. Mr. Wade, can you unmute her?
Yeah, I'm trying to. I have to ask her.
Hello.
Okay. Hello, Ms. Devette Anderson.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Anderson, I need to swear you in. So if you raise your right hand so that you may be sworn.
Mhm.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you give today be the truth so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, you can place your hand down. I note it appears that you're in a vehicle. Are you driving?
No, I'm not.
Okay, you parked in a safe place.
Yes.
Okay, one additional question. The property in question on Fisher Avenue, are you the only person on the deed as the owner?
No, it's under a company name that's no longer a company. I just have not been able to financially change the deed. And a
Okay.
lot of things happened since the first pictures of the violations. And
Okay. Now there's that raises an issue here, Mr. Rulu. I guess you can understand where I'm headed with this. Is if the deed is in a corporate name, you need to have an attorney.
It's not a corporate. It's not a corporation.
What is it?
Sure.
It's a fictitious name. It's no business behind it.
Okay, wait just one moment. Is that legal counsel, Mr.?
If I may, actually, I need to correct that because I submitted as a city exhibit G is a public record from the Pennsylvania Department of State reflecting that this entity is still exists and still is listed as active with the Pennsylvania Department of State.
Okay,
And the only reason that is because I do not
Mr.
know
Anderson,
how.
Mr. Anderson.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes, we'll call you when we'll call on you. Okay, you'll be given ample time to speak because the court reporter can't record all of us speaking at the same time.
Yes.
Mr. Rulo, is this a corporate entity that meets the basic definition of a corporate entity?
Yes, it is an active, the owner of this property as reflected on the deed is a corporate entity, FAB Investments, and that entity, according to, as identified in City Exhibit G, is an active existing corporate entity.
Okay, how is it organized as a C Corp, S Corp, or LLC?
It is organized as, excuse me. It is organized, pardon. It appears to be organized as an LLC.
LLC, okay, thank you. Ms. Anderson, are you the only person who's a member of the LLC?
No, I'm not the only person that is listed on the fictitious name. No.
You understand that you understand that the corporate.
There's a distinction here. Ms. Anderson, you keep saying fictitious name. Mr. Rulo has referred to an LLC. That's the thing.
I'm trying to explain. There was never any, we only filled out a fictitious name. There was never any state LLC forms filled out for the company. And it has not been an active company, even though the name is still active on the fictitious name list, which I have not been able to figure out how to get it back down or whatever. There is no company. There was never any other paperwork filed other than the fictitious name.
Well, the problem is that the state records indicate that it was an LLC, and that's the only record that we have, unless you have documentation to show us that you filed to have it dissolved.
No, and that's the thing. I didn't have it filed to have it dissolved because I didn't know how. I didn't know
I also
what
would
to
like
do.
to, if I could just highlight that, I think that we need to focus on the fact that the deed is in the name of a business entity and not the appellant, and as is reflected in that.
That was because when it
Miss
was changed.
Anderson, Miss Anderson,
Oh, I'm
please.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Please.
And
Ms.
as
Rulo, please continue.
as it's reflected on that with the PA Department of State, it identifies two other individuals, a James V. Fountain III and a Raymond Ricardo Brown, who are are listed with the PA Department of State for this entity. So I think that just based on the deed alone, there's no standing here.
Okay. Miss Anderson, are those two other individuals, are they still alive?
I believe so. I'm not sure. I have not had contact with them in years.
Okay. All right, Mr. Jefferson, my understanding of what you just heard would indicate that there's no standing for this hearing and we can't hear it. Is that would you agree?
Yes, I do agree. Either a lawyer is needed or the property needs to be conveyed to the individual that's now appearing, in which case the department would have to issue a new violation.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Anderson, what you've just heard is that the other two individuals have legal rights to this property, and we cannot allow you as one individual, not without them being represented in person or by an attorney, to represent the interests of the property. So we can't hear this case today. You don't have standing. Understand? So you need to resolve this either yourself individually or you get legal assistance to do it, or we'll get the other two people involved with helping you to do it.
Okay, so what I have to do is get
You got to get it conveyed to your name alone.
right. Yeah, because that's what I had the city. I had the same thing happen with the state. They gave me, the city took a certain amount of time to get it conveyed to my name for the property taxes. That's the agreement I have with them. So
Okay.
basically, I have to do the same thing for this.
Yep. And if this LLC is inactive, then the three of you have to file the appropriate documents to dissolve the company.
Okay.
Okay. We can't
Okay.
hear this. Okay.
Okay.
So
So-
for lack of standing, and I just don't say anything else. Mr. Jefferson is formally in terms of the record. We are not going to hear this case for lack of standing. Is there anything else we need to enter into the record?
No,
Okay, thank you. So that's where we are. Mr. Rulo, we're not going to hear this case for lack of standing.
Just for a clarification, is this being continued or is it being marked as essentially a city affirm for lack of appearance? Because I would like to note, and while I respect and am sympathetic to the appellant's situation, I informed the appellant that this entity needed an attorney last week. That was on Wednesday, September 28th. So there was notice provided that this entity needed an attorney, and that was not resolved prior to today's hearing. So, we would just request that this be marked a city affirm as a result.
Okay, thank you. If there's any, I would entertain comments from any of the board members before we call the vote. Yes, sir.
I just want to get real clear. Mr. Willow, are we saying city affirm non-appearance?
Yes, in this instance, yes, that would be what we're requesting.
Okay, thank you.
It's on a technicality because the company is not being represented by either the two additional members of the LLC or an attorney. I'd entertain additional comments from board members before we call the vote.
Mr. Chair, I just have a question for Mr. Rillo. If the appellant here today, his name is on the deed, and we're to affirm this for lack of appearance, isn't there one member on the deed appearing today, that appellant?
Well, since the entity since the owner of the property is an entity, even if there's a member of the corporate entity that is here, they can't represent that entity. It's a requirement that they must have an attorney. I believe, as Chairman Woodson pointed out, is if the deed is transferred, if the property is in essence sold to Ms. Anderson, then the violation would have to be reissued by the city.
Thank you.
And now also, Mr. Rulo, it's indicated that the owner is the LLC, doesn't indicate an individual's names, any person's name.
That is correct. And as reflected in the exhibits that the city submitted, Ms. Anderson actually previously was on the deed, and then it was transferred to this corporate entity. So I just want to note that as well. So this would essentially be a city affirm because it is failure to prosecute, since there was no attorney that appeared to represent the entity.
Okay. All right. Thank you. If there's no other questions, Mr. Pincus, do you have anything to share with us on this? I think I know where we're headed.
No, I agree that an attorney was required if an LLC is the owner. And there was apparently ample notice provided to the appellant to find an attorney or resolve the issue of the ownership, neither of which have been done.
Okay. Miss Anderson, I would permit you the last word before we call the vote.
I sent an email back to Mr. I can't remember say his name.
Mr. Rulo.
I sent the email back to him stating that I am on disability. I could not find a lawyer in the short amount of time that he's talking about because I can't afford one. I'm on disability. I'm fixed income. I hadn't even know what type of lawyer to find. And it was only, and I had only got the letter from the city a day before that email he sent me.
What about the other two individuals? Can't they
I don't know
help you
where
do it?
they are. I have no idea where they are or how to contact them. I have not talked to them in over 20 years.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now poll the board with regard to the incident case, which is HA-2020-000384, Devette Anderson, 723 West Fisher Avenue. City affirmed for lack of persecution.
I would say city affirmed for lack of standing of appellant.
My apologies. Please correct the record. City affirmed for lack of standing by the appellant.
That would be my vote as well. City affirmed lack of standing of appellant.
City affirm lack of standing of appellate.
City affirm lack of standing by the appellant.
City affirm lack of standing by the appellant.
Thank you. Ready? Ms. Anderson, I would only encourage you to do whatever you can to try to resolve this, because this will not go away as you continue to deal with this property. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay, what's our next matter?
That brings us to case 13. Hearing appeal number HA 2021-000068. Matthew Garound, 416 Kingsley Street.
Okay, who's representing the city in this matter?
That is me, Chairman Woodson, Michael Rouleau, RULLO, on behalf of the city.
Thank you. And who's representing Mr. Matthew Ground?
Good afternoon, board. I'm representing myself.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ground, first, raise your right hand so that you may be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you give today be the truth to help you God?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Place your hand down. Before we begin, the preliminaries are these. One, what's the correct way to pronounce your last name?
Yeah, so it is incorrectly spelled on the deed. The correct spelling is GIROUD, as in Daniel, and that is listed, correctly on my name.
Okay, and how do you pronounce that?
It's Giroux.
Giroux. Okay. All right. Thank you. Now, are you the only person's name on the deed?
No, my wife is as well, Taylor Klein.
Okay. How was the deed noted?
I
Is
apologize.
it et al? How is it listed? Or do you know?
It's Matthew Giround, because there's an N in there, and then N Taylor Klein.
Okay, Mr. Rulo, are we okay?
In the city's, yeah, because Mr. Jurin is on the deed, he is standing to proceed today in the city's view.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We will proceed. Mr. Rulo, please proceed.
Thank you. Just as a preliminary matter, just to frame where we are with this, as Inspector Alvarado would testify in a moment, this matter concerns the erection of a curb cut without the required zoning. The appellant in the appeal documents is not disputing that there is not zoning for this, but is instead asserting that it was pre-existing. In the city's position in this instance is that there simply is a lack of zoning for this as required, and we're going to request a city affirm for that basis. With that, I would ask that Inspector Alvarado be sworn in.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Alvarado, are you present?
I am, but I am present. I don't know what address we're talking about. I thought I was here for 723 West Fisher.
Excuse me, I was incorrect. It is Salim Mohammed is the inspector. I apologize for the confusion there.
Okay, I see Mr. Muhammad's image. Mr. Muhammad, would you raise your right hand so that you may be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you give today be the truth so help you God?
I do.
All right, thank you. You can place your hand down. Okay, Mr. Rulo, please proceed.
May I have permission to share my screen, Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just 1 second. Oh, apologies, 1 second. Inspector Mohammed, can you see a document on the screen preliminarily marked City Exhibit A? Excuse me, it looks like it is.
Can you scroll down? Will it scroll? Yeah, there you go. You'll need to magnify it a bit though.
I will do so right now. Please give me 1 second. Inspector Mohammed, can you see this document that's titled Initial Notice of Violation and Order?
Yes.
Okay, and the date of this notice is February 7th of 2020, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And are you familiar with the property at 416 Kingsley Street?
Yes.
And this notice of violation was issued because there is a curb cut at this property that does not have zoning, correct?
That's correct.
And this occurred because there was essentially a curb cut built there without that zoning permit, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to move on to the next exhibit. And can you see what has been preliminarily marked City Exhibit C?
Yes.
Moving on to this next one. Okay. And is this the property in question?
It is.
Can you briefly describe what this photograph is reflecting?
It is the address in question for actually 418 Kingsley, and there's new construction on the right-hand side. There's what appears to be an empty lot, and then on the left of that you have 416 Kingsley.
Okay, and this is reflecting the newly constructed curb cut here, correct?
Yes.
And moving on to the next photograph, excuse me. Excuse me, I'm going to move on to City Exhibit D. Let me scroll out here very quickly. Can you see what's preliminarily marked as City Exhibit D on the screen right now?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Can you see what's been preliminarily marked as City Exhibit D on the screen right now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to turn down to this photograph. Okay, and if you look up at the top left here, can you identify for the board what the date reflected of this document is, or this image?
Yes, this was a picture taken in October of 2016.
And as we were discussing, the owner contends that there was a pre-existing curb cut here. I direct your attention to the actual curb here. Am I correct that we see a continuing curb that goes over this area as well?
Yes.
Okay, so as of 2016, there was actually not a pre-existing curb cut here.
That's correct.
Before we move on, Mr. Ruler, I do have a question for Mr. Muhammad. It appears that there's a break in the curb. Is that in front of the driveway that was noted on the previous photos? Or is the new curb cut goes from where the edge where the blue recycling can is over to the tree?
Yes, if the current, yes, that's the current picture of the new construction, that where the blue container is, that would be where the new construction is currently. And then as we looked at the previous picture, to the left of that would be where the area in question.
Okay, so essentially someone removed that partial curb that's there now.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chair. I have a question. Go ahead, Ed. Go ahead, Ralph.
I'm confused because from this picture that we're looking at now, it looks like the area where the driveway is considerably larger than the area that was shown in the picture beforehand, which had a new house on it. And it looked like the new house was built and uses that portion where the curb is showing as existing. And so the only place that had a curb cut installed is the place here where the curb looks like it was removed.
And yeah, Ralph, Mr.
Board,
Chair,
may
that's my
I
question.
clarify a few
Not
things?
yet, not yet, sir. We'll get to you, okay? Just a moment.
Yeah,
Mr.
Mr.
Tennant?
Kendrick, that is correct. And that was my question going to be directed to the inspector. It appears in this photo here now, and he correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a parking space for 2 vehicles as we currently see it, with one curb cut to the left side of the driveway. And as Mr. Pickett explained, there's a vast difference where the new construction is on the previous photo. So that's my question to the inspector. Was this a 2-car driveway, which it appears to be space enough, now move down to a 1-car driveway?
Well, you know, in pictures that I have observed through our system, there were at times 2 cars there. Now, whether it was a legal parking space, that's another question. But at some point, it was used to park 2 cars. However, the property itself is that of would be 418.
Okay, Mr. Rulo, if you could go back, and also we'd like to see that previous photo again, the first one you started with.
Excuse me, I inadvertently closed that out. Can you see it now?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know if you can put them up side by side, but would you go back to the previous photo, please? And diminish that a bit so we can get a perspective on it. Okay, so the new property was built on a portion of what once was a 2-car parking space. Is that correct, Mr. Muhammad?
Well, what was being used at times as a 2-car.
Yes, I wouldn't say it's legal, but it was used as a 2-car parking space.
Yes, that's correct.
And so that break in the curb is the old break that we see now. That it doesn't appear that a new curb cut was constructed.
Well, that's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. I think that helps me understand better. Okay, thank you. Mr. Rulo?
May I please remove this from the screen?
Yes, please.
I do have a further question. Are there 2 property addresses, 416 and 418, that are involved?
The violation in this instance, and I believe that Inspector Muhammad had tried to clarify this in the initial questioning, is only for 416, not 418, which is the neighboring property that has been noted. That does it for my questions for Inspector Mohammed.
Okay, Mr. Muhammad, don't go anywhere. Mr. Giroux, do you have any cross-examination of the inspector based on his testimony? If you have additional things you'd like to share, you can do that later, but I just want to make sure you don't have any specific questions based on his testimony.
Yeah, I appreciate that. My first question would be, the original inspector was James Wright. He initially wrote the violation, so I was a little bit confused there. So I would like some clarification on that.
But that's not a question based on his testimony. I'm not sure the relevance of who the first inspector was.
Because I thought that he was familiar with.
Well, they all get
violations.
the record is what counts, so they get transferred around. Okay. Any other questions?
I don't have any questions in cross-examination, no.
Okay, thank you very much. And Mr. Rouleau, is that the sum and total of your case?
Yes, other than argument.
Okay, well, let's move to Mr. Giroux. Mr. Giroux, what would you like to share with us?
Yeah, so a couple things, just some history. I actually purchased both properties. So I purchased 416 Kingsley and 418 Kingsley, 2 separate lots. I had then sold 418 Kingsley to a contractor, and I then just remained in 416 Kingsley Street. If we're able to pull back up the exhibit C and D, I could better explain the partition in the properties that might make a little bit more sense.
Okay, Mr. Rouleau, is that possible?
I can pull that up right now.
Thank you.
1 second.
But I'm not sure that it's necessary to explain the partitioning of the property, Mr. Giroux, in as much as the issue is there appears not to be any curb cut for the driveway that is on your property.
So what I am saying here is that there was a pre-existing prior to me purchasing the house. It was sold as a driveway. And I think that there was some confusion with saying that this driveway is 418. It is not. 418 built up directly to the property line between 416 and 418. So this driveway is part of 416. And if we can go down to the history picture of 2016.
Yeah, and just for the purposes of the record, the image that was being referenced on the screen just above was City Exhibit C, and we're now moving to City Exhibit D.
Thank you.
So Exhibit D is actually prior to me purchasing the house with my wife. And again, we have a cut here that we were explained was a driveway when we purchased the property. And when I had done the work, I actually asked the contractor if a permit was needed. And his response was because there was an existing cut there that we don't need a permit to do that. And it's what he described as flat work. And of course, I want to do things in good standing. If I had known that a permit was needed, I really just wanted to rectify, any mistakes that were made. And I attempted to do that pretty early on here, when I received the letter.
Okay, a couple questions for you, sir. What was the date of purchase of those 2 properties?
So that would be December 17th, 2017.
Okay,
It's
and
possible that the 17th is off the top of my head. I apologize.
when did you sell 418?
January of 2018.
What, okay, January 2018, okay. And is your testimony that that broken curb was there when you purchased it?
That's correct. Yes, yes.
Was there any reference in the property description or the deeds regarding a driveway or curb cut?
Not to my knowledge. But it
Yeah.
was listed in the sale of the house as far as a description.
Did you submit that for the record?
So that history was gone. I guess once we purchased the house, I actually looked back and was not able to find the house posting, historically to obtain that information, but it was presented to us as a driveway. One spot for 416, one spot for 418, which they then built a house on.
But that would have been in a realtor's listing. That wasn't a legal representation. Was it, Mr. Giroux?
I apologize, Mr. Pincus. That's correct. I did not. Yeah, I was unaware that there was a difference there. I am referring to the listing, to be clear.
How many other curb cuts are on your side of the street on that block?
None. There was much new construction, like 15 houses that were put up right next to 418. So I believe there was curb cuts prior to that.
Okay, did you check to see if there were any outstanding violations before you purchased the house?
We did.
And were there any listed?
No.
Okay. Mr. Mohammed, your quick perusal of the record, is there anything indicating what generated the initial inspection?
Well, from the original and the area inspector had wrote that when he observed the lack of zoning or knowing that cars were parked there at one time, wrote that violation to 416. And again, after that, as the gentleman noted, the property was sold and then you had new construction built on that. And looking at the Eclipse records, it doesn't specify a driveway. So it appears that it's a part of 418.
Okay, all right, thank you. Now, Mr. Giroux, have you attempted to submit a zoning application to rectify this?
I have not, because this is the first time I was actually able to speak to get information. So I had no direction on how to do that. And
just want to say something. This form is not a form for getting information. This is a prosecutorial form. So what happens here, we make a decision. We don't give you direction to go off and do something.
I understand.
Did you consult an engineer or an architect or a contractor or anyone about how to deal with this?
I have not.
Chairman, if I may, I think that you are hitting on essentially what the city's identified as the issue here, which is what is, and I wanted to make sure that I clarified this through the testimony that was happening here. But essentially, this is amounting to an argument that it's a legal non-conforming use. But as I'm sure the board members are aware, that's something that would need to be presented to the zoning board, not to this forum.
Okay.
Chair, if I may, Mr.
Yes.
Rule, that is correct. This gentleman here would be attempting to legalize an existing curb cut that has been previously there and used and not recognized by the city. So he would have to apply to legalize an existing curb cut through the zoning process and not this board.
Is there not a streets department review also required as part of this process? Mr. Tennant, you're muted, but you may know.
I'm sorry, that is correct, Mr. Pincus. Once he applies to the zoning board, he actually should apply to the zoning and the streets department simultaneously.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments before we ask Mr. Rulo for his final argument? Okay, Mr. Ruler, before you speak, Mr. Giroux, anything else you want to share with us that would be helpful in making our decision?
Yeah, I would just like to clarify that I got this notice a couple days before the entire country shut down for COVID. And right when I received the violation, I attempted to contact the inspector, Mr. James Wright, and was unable to do that. In the violation, it said to contact the inspector with questions. And so I was attempting to do that. And you would see that in my exhibit of the communication log that I had with the city over about 8 months. And again, what I was trying to do was just resolve the violation. And I attempted to do that with the inspector and was unable to get a return call probably for about eight months or so. During that time, I filed an appeal on February 12th. The initial violation was February 7th. So I filed that appeal on the 12th, and then I think because everything was shut down, I continued to get violations, which, was a little concerning as I was trying to resolve it. So I think that was probably because everything was shut down that I kept, getting more violations after the appeal.
And you haven't consulted an attorney, any other professional to help you with this?
I have not.
Okay.
Let me ask, it's either Mr. Rulo or my fellow board member, Mr. Tennant, who has a high level of experience in these matters. If we vote today, the violation has not been complied. So there's still a violation. If in fact, Mr. Giroux follows through with what he is supposed to do, which is to get the non-conforming pre-existing use approved by Streets Department and the Zoning Board, then he could go back to L&I and ask them to remove the violation once he gets the appropriate approvals. If he doesn't get those approvals, the violation is still a valid violation. Is that correct, Counselor?
As what the city is going to be requesting in this instance is that there's really not a factual dispute in terms of the validity of the current violation. So what we were going to be asking for is that this is, in this instance, because of what is the authority of this board, for a city affirm of the violation. However, as everyone has discussed, that doesn't impede the appellant's right to go to the ZBA and get that approval. So that's kind of where I think the procedural posture of this matter is, in terms of, even though this would be a city affirm before Blur, the appellant would retain that option to then resolve this issue by going to ZBA.
And the Streets Department, correct?
Correct, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Tennant, what is your general understanding of the scheduling for such an application to streets and zoning before an outcome is realized?
It's about 22 days. And Streets Department, I can't speak, their time frame is somewhat different. It could be a little longer, a little shorter, based upon the fact he's asking for just to legalize the existing that's there.
Does that automatically lead to a variance and a need for hearing, or it can be resolved administratively?
It depends on what the zoning is in that particular area. It could lead to a variance, but if the zoning for those particular curb cuts and off-street parking in that area exists, then, it wouldn't be that long, but it would just depends on what the zoning is reading for that currently.
Okay.
Might he also need to have an engineer provide some specifics with respect to the curb cut, the location and the driveway?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Okay, thank you. Alrighty. Mr. Giroux, we're going to move on now to Mr. Rulo for his final argument, and then we will call the vote.
Thank you, Chairman. I think that the argument is pretty kind of straightforward, and I've already previewed with that, is that in terms of what this board can rule on, the validity of the violations here is not in question because there is that lack of zoning. So in this instance, I don't think that there's any other option than to issue a city affirm here, which, as everyone has pointed out, that's not going to negate Mr. Giroud's right to then go to the ZBA and resolve this by obtaining the zoning. So in this instance, we're going to be asking for a city affirm, since there's really not a legal dispute as to the validity of the violations.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, with regard then to HA-2021.
I guess I do have a further question. If the city's affirmed, can the city go out and take Mr. Giroux into common pleas court and get an order for specific enforcement to require him to put a curb back in any period of time? Or I guess the answer is maybe the city wouldn't do it because of the nature and the history. But if he doesn't do anything, he has to put a curb back in.
Mr. Pincus, what the appellant should do, I would recommend that he work with the inspector who's currently holding the CF notice and let them know, not so much about what this board's decision, because it's irrelevant to the violation, but the fact that he is attempting to do that. And as soon as he does that and get the zoning application numbers, he could submit them and the inspector can see them in the system, and then they can work from there.
And Board Member Pincus, just to clarify and provide a more, just absolute answer, yes, technically, if the violation remains outstanding, the department, and it has not made that determination yet, could retain the right to go to the Court of Common Pleas. However, I think in this instance, that's not, as I'm sure you are well aware, is that sometimes when the board rules on a matter, there is never anything that's followed up to actually comply it, which is why subsequently there can be filings in the Court of Common Pleas. And I think that we need to ensure that in this instance, it is being promptly followed up with at the ZBA, so that this doesn't just kind of continue to sit out there perpetually.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, one quick question, just
yes, sir.
For clarity for me.
Yes, sir.
Could the board continue it for 60 days and give him a chance to
that is an option?
Because I was listening to what Mr. Tennant was saying, and it seemed like this can be done. It seemed like he just fell in the crack.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I'm asking, can the board continue it 60 days?
Yeah, it's within the board's authority to include in this decision a stay of enforcement for a certain period of time. So you're absolutely correct. Thank you very much. Okay, we will call the vote then on HA-2021-000068. Matthew Giroux, that's Giroud, 416 Kingsley Street. City affirmed 60-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed 60-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed 60-day stay of enforcement.
City affirms 60-day stay of enforcement.
The city affirms 60-day stay of enforcement.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Giroux. Two things. One, we've just voted to affirm the city's violation notice, which is legitimate, but also to give you 60 days to get the wheels rolling quickly to try to resolve this, okay, and work with the inspector. The second thing, you may want to consult a real estate professional regarding changing your name that's listed on the deed.
Sure.
If it's going to be an issue for you or your family members in the future if you don't fix that.
Absolutely, I'll get that fixed. And I understand, so I'm going to take action tomorrow on working with the inspector. Can I please confirm that was Mr. Muhammad?
Mr. Rulo, is that accurate to say that will be Mr. Muhammad for him to connect with?
That's correct. It's an Inspector Salim Muhammad.
Okay.
If there's any possibility of contact info, I'd greatly appreciate that.
Can Mr. Muhammad put his contact information in the chat box so that Mr. Drew can connect with him?
I can, yes.
Mr. Drew, watch the chat box and you will see his contact information.
Thank you
Put
so
that in
much.
there.
We're
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next matter.
That brings us to case number 21. Hearing appeal 2021, HA 2021-004718. Edgardo Flores, 600 East Ansbury Street.
Okay, who's representing the city?
This is Christopher Johnson for the city of Philadelphia.
Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson. Who's representing Mr. Flores?
My name is Daniel Greenberg. I'm not an attorney. I'm a friend of Mr. Flores's.
You can't represent Mr. Flores. You don't have standing to do that. Is he present?
He is not with me at the moment. I spoke with him earlier. Okay, so I cannot represent him.
No. Only an attorney can represent his interests in this instance, or he can represent himself.
I understand his English isn't too good, and he was just confused by this process. I'm a real estate professional. I was just honestly just trying to help the guy. But.
Okay, well, let's do this because all he has to do is ask for an interpreter. We'll have an interpreter prepared to be here when the case is called.
Okay.
So if he has an issue with English,
how would he go?
Either he or someone on his behalf should call the office. There's phone numbers on the information that he has.
Okay.
Mr. Johnson, given the what we've just heard, I'm prepared to continue this matter unless you have an objection.
I have no objection to continuing for an interpreter. I know that it's a fairly straightforward case. It's a issue related to whether or not the premises has a required zoning for the driveway that exists on the premises where there's vehicles parked.
Okay.
And fairly straightforward.
Okay, thank you. Please note the record that this matter is being continued for an interpreter, and I'd ask Mr. Wade.
Could I get?
Wait,
could I get the
I'm not
email
finished.
address?
I'm not finished, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Wade, please note the record that we'll need to order an interpreter for this matter when it's relisted.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson, what was your
Hey, could I
inquiry?
get Mr. Greenberg's email address, please?
Sure.
Okay.
It's Greenberg D, Greenberg D at me.com, me.com. And am I allowed to say something?
No. Everything's on
Can
the
you say
record.
that one more time? Greenberg at
D as in
me.com.
Daniel. Greenberg D at at me.com.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Have a good day.
Brings us
Thank
to
you.
case number 23.
Okay.
Hearing appeal number HA 2021-004725, Chanel Forest, 2466 Garnett Street.
Okay, thank you. Who's representing the city?
Michelle Reinhardt for City of Philadelphia.
Okay, thank you. Is Miss Forrest present? Chanel
Yes.
Forrest? Yes. Okay, thank you. Ms. Forrest, would you raise your right hand so that you may be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you give today be the truth so help you God?
Yeah.
Ms. Forrest, are we having difficulty hearing you? What's your response to the swearing?
Yes.
Okay.
Me?
We can barely hear you. Keep breaking up. Are you in a place that you can be stationary?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Barely. You're breaking up badly. Hello. Ms. Forrest, are you now sitting in a vehicle?
Then I am.
Okay. Is there a way for you to move your location to a safe place to park, but also where we can communicate with you because we can barely hear you. You're breaking up very badly. Okay. I think we lost her. Mr. Wade, let's do this. Let's call the next matter. And then if you could get Miss,
I'm right here. Can you hear me any better?
only
No?
only slightly better.
All right, let me see. Let me see. I'll move again.
Okay,
Wait a
that's a little
minute.
better. Where you are now is a little better.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you're in a place where you can be stationary for the duration,
Yeah.
that would be helpful. Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Wade, did we read this into the record?
Yes.
Okay, alrighty. Who's representing the city again?
Michelle Reinhardt.
Ms. Reinhardt, do you have any witnesses?
Yes, I have Inspector Gerardo Gonzalez.
Okay. Ms. Gonzalez, unmute, raise your right hand so that you may be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you give will be the truth to help you God?
I do.
Okay. Ms. Reinhardt?
Thank you. Inspector, can you please introduce yourself with your name, employment, and title?
Sure. Gerardo Gonzalez, Gonzalez, Code Enforcement Inspector for the Department of Licenses and Inspections.
How long have you been in this position?
I've been with the city for 29 years in this position, about 15.
And you reviewed the file prior to this hearing for this property?
Yes.
Okay, I am going to share my screen with
Oh.
what has been.
Ms. Reinhardt, I
Yes.
neglected to do something, so if you can hold on just for a moment, please. Ms. Forrest, is your name the
Yeah.
only name on the deed of the property in question?
Yes.
Is that your residence?
No,
Okay, but
not
you don't,
currently.
it's owned in your name alone, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Reinhardt, please proceed.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen with what has been previously marked Exhibit A. Inspector, are you able to see a notice of violation?
Yes.
I am having a hard time making it bigger. Okay, the notice of violation on the screen dated September 22nd, 2021.
Yes.
Can you tell us what, and this is for property 2466 North Garnet Street. Can you tell us what the violations were?
Violations were for vacant property. They were missing they didn't have a vacant license for the property, and they were also missing windows, and a door was boarded. And there was also trash in the back and weeds.
Okay, I am scrolling down to the photographs that were taken at the time of the initial inspection. Can you please tell us what, I'm not sure what this white bar is that is on the screen in the middle of the photograph, but can you tell us what we're looking at here?
Well, this is the vacant property.
Okay, indicating at least two windows are open, a missing door.
Yes. And another window boarded in the front.
And the trash that you indicated in the front as well.
Yes.
Scrolling to the next photograph, can you tell us what we see here?
Yes, there was boards in the windows. Trash in the front on the side of the building.
And just to point out, the broken window at the top right-hand corner of the photograph, is that broken glass that we're looking at?
Yes, it is.
Okay, going to the next photograph, what do we see here?
This is the rear of the property. There was weeds and there was piles of trash in the rear. There was also construction debris back there.
There is one additional photograph here that I apologize. It is significantly smaller than the others. but this is just the front of the property from a slightly different angle than we saw earlier.
Yes.
Going to Exhibit B. This is a
Before you move on, Ms. Reinhardt, can you just confirm when were these pictures taken?
Inspector, are you able to verify that these were taken at the time of the initial inspection?
Well, I didn't do the initial inspection. It was another inspector. I ended up getting the inspection for the final initial inspection.
Okay. Did you review the documents
Yes,
for this file prior to this hearing?
yes.
Okay. And for the photographs that were, would you be able to verify that these were in the system dated for the initial inspection?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Pincus, does that answer your question?
Well, are you suggesting that these photos relate back to the approximate date of the violation notice in September of 2021?
Yes.
Thank you. That's what I wanted.
Thank you. Moving to Exhibit B, this is the final notice dated 6/11/2022. Inspector, can you tell us what we're looking at here?
The property was still in violation for the windows and the license. And I believe the trash was cleared from the rear of the property by the clean and seal unit.
Okay.
It was actually sent to clean and seal, I'm sorry.
When you say the clean and seal unit, are you saying that these violations were abated, or that violation was abated by city enforcement?
Yes.
Okay, and that is rather than by the owner?
I'm sorry?
Therefore, if the city abated it through clean and seal, that was done, that was not done by the owner.
Right.
Okay, moving down to these photographs, were these taken at the time of the approximate second inspection where the final notice of violation was sent?
Yes.
What are we looking at here?
Well, the violations for the windows and doors, they're still existing. And of course, there's some trash still in the front. Looks like they just keep dumping trash at this location.
What is the date of this second inspection, please?
I can pull it up from the final notice of violation. Inspector, are you able to see the second paragraph on the notice? Let me know if I should scroll in more.
Yeah. The second paragraph, yes.
Okay, does that indicate the date of the second inspection?
Yes. Let me see if I can pull up the yeah, it would have been June 10th. Yes.
Okay. And moving down to the photographs.
That's June 10th of 2022, correct?
Yes.
There appears to be a timestamp on the photographs that are under this inspection. Can you tell us what the timestamp represents, Inspector?
That's the date of the inspection.
Okay. For the second photograph in Exhibit B, can you tell us what we're looking at?
This is the front side of the building. There's still trash there, and of course, one of the windows still boarded up.
Is the timestamp date on that photograph June 10th, 2022, Inspector?
Yes.
Thank you.
And then again, for this third photograph, can you tell us what we're looking at?
Yes, this is the rear of the property and it's also dated June 10th, 2022.
And what do you see in this as far as
There's
possible
still,
violations?
there's still minor debris in the back and of course the windows are still open.
Okay, moving on to Exhibit C. Can you tell us, have you personally been out to this property?
Yes,
When was that?
that was on, let me see here. The 30th of September of this year.
Okay. And is this a photograph that you took at that inspection?
Yes,
What are we looking at here?
this is the front of the property. The debris is gone, but it's still vacant with open windows and the boards on the windows and the door.
Moving down to the second photograph, you took this as well?
Yes, this is the
And-
rear. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yes, this is the rear. This was done also on the 30th of September of this year. And the only debris that was left there was bricks, like construction debris. As you can see the poster on the door from the abatement unit from Clean and Seal. From the first time they cleaned it.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Overall, can you tell us the status today of the violations for this property?
It's still vacant. It's still missing the windows and doors and no current vacant structure license.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you. Alrighty. Do you have any additional witnesses?
I'm not sure if the property owner wanted to ask any questions first.
Oh, yes, my
Question-
apologies.
I have a question of Inspector Gonzalez. Do you know, based on the appearance of that property, is it structurally safe? Have you been inside it? Has anyone been able to determine if it's a structurally safe property? Is it an imminent danger that needs to be dealt with?
I think there's an existing case from a CSU inspector, but I'm not sure if I can't really clarify on what he found inside, if he did go inside.
Okay, Ms. Forrest, do you have any specific cross-examination of the inspector based on his testimony? Your general comments you can give afterwards, but I just want to know if you have any specific questions of him.
When was that yellow notice or orange notice put on the rear door?
Let me see here.
Because I've never seen that before.
Let me see. I'm pulling up the.
Is that the clean and seal notice, Mr.
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
That should have been attached once the cleanup was completed.
Right.
What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
Let's see. It was looks like it was September 23rd.
Of what year?
2022.
Okay, and explain to Ms. Forrest what that means.
That means the clean and seal unit went out, the enforcement unit went out for the abatement unit, went out there and they cleaned the rear. They cleaned the weeds and all the debris that was left around the property.
Now, the cost of that work is assigned to the property, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
First, I have pictures.
Wait a minute, Ms.
that
Forrest, do you have
show
any,
that-
Ms. Forrest, do you have any additional questions
Yeah.
before you get to your general testimony?
No, I have no additional questions.
Okay, just for a moment. Ms. Reinhardt, do you have additional witnesses?
I have no additional witnesses, but I would like to reserve the right to potentially recall Inspector Gonzalez.
Yes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Ms. Forrest, is now your turn to give us your understanding of the facts. I do have a request though. Your images keeps changing. So really be helpful if you could keep the
Yes, because I'm
camera
just trying to
on.
make sure I can hear you. That's all.
Okay.
No, I was trying to make sure I can hear you well. That's all.
Okay. All right. So now it's your turn to
Can you
tell
hear
us.
me?
We can hear you fine.
You-
Tell us what your
Okay.
understanding of the fact.
Do you have a speaker phone and you can put us on the speaker on your phone? That way you won't have to keep moving it?
Let's see. It's fine. It may already be on. Not sure. I purchased this property by share or sale. The property had squatters in it, and it took over 3 years because of COVID and the extended eviction, it took a significantly longer time to get the tenants, squat out.
Miss Forrest, Miss Forrest, that last statement you made went completely blank. So I'm not sure if you moved or not, but you're breaking up.
I said I did not get the writ of possession until 2022. I have been in communication with NI throughout this entire period to let them know what was happening and why certain repairs could not be done. I did not get the writ of possession until this year, the current year. I had someone cut the weeds that was down in the back, and I have pictures to verify that. I had, there was debris and the trash that was around the property. I would go every week. I don't know who it.
I think we lost her.
Okay. Miss Forrest? Miss Forrest?
She's no longer on the call.
Okay.
Back. So I have no idea who's been dumping this trash. I filed a police report with the city of Philadelphia about the trash dumping. I have receipts and pictures that my person cleaned and cut down those weeds, and I can submit that to the court. The windows, I have not been, because I went into the property, finally got into the property for the first time this year. The windows was measured, but because it's a much older house, the windows are significantly harder to find. So I have not been able to locate the windows as of yet. The property had been secured. I don't know when the sheriff department went in to remove the squatters out of this property, but I came to the property. The neighbor said that the sheriff department had been there, but all the notices that they put up, they took them down. So I didn't have any idea of when I could start working on this property. So when I get into the property, finally, the people that was there broke back into the property. I was kind enough to let them gather some things so that they can leave. We thought we secured the property again. They broke back in, and it's been a constant struggle to keep these people who have been squatting in this property for years out. So it's been very difficult to get the necessary work when you don't know what type of mental state these people are in that are squatting in your property. So it's been very challenging for me to get the windows done or get the doors put up. Because every time I go in there, there's somebody in there. There is trash outside. And I have reported this to the police multiple times. Only one time were they willing to take a report. The other times they was like, this is what they always do. I've told this to license and inspection that no matter how many, I go on Wednesdays to try to clear this trash up, but they dump it because this location has 2 trash trucks. So if they have too much trash, they just put it at my property. I've been doing my best this year to try to comply with everything license and inspection has asked me to do. I don't know anything about them going to this property to do what I had already done, and I have pictures to prove that I cut down those weeds in the back. So I'm not really sure what they did.
Okay, Ms. Forrest.
And I didn't get any notice that that's what they were going to do.
Okay.
Yes.
Ms. Forrest, I have a couple questions for you, and others may as well. How long have you owned this property? When did you buy it?
I'm thinking 2016.
Can you give a month and a date?
No.
Okay.
No. I don't know.
Okay. The documentation that you mentioned in terms of cleaning that you've done, the photos that you have, etc. Did you submit that with your appeal?
No.
Okay. I just would no. Okay.
I didn't know to submit them.
That's in the Miss Forrest. That's in the instructions. The third question is that why haven't you taken out a vacant property license?
I didn't take out a vacant property license because squatters have been in the property. Elle and I have requested to have a vacant license for me to fill out a vacant license, but I wasn't sure how a property that's occupied by squatters is vacant. It's considered vacant.
Because they're squatters, it's not legally there.
I'm sorry?
Because they're squatters. Now, one additional question for you is, do you own other investment properties in Philadelphia?
The one I live in.
That's not an investment property. It's because you live in it.
Oh, then no. This is my first one and my only one that I purchased through Sheriff. So this is my second property ever in my life.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
I have some questions if the board does not.
Okay. Yes, please.
Thank you. Ms. Forrest, can you tell us when you got possession of this property?
I don't know the exact date. It was this year, 2022. I had several Zoom meetings, continued. So I thought the last one that I had, which was in October 2021, gave me right of possession, but said that was not true. So it did not happen until 2022.
Ms. Forrest, just hold on for a moment. Ms. Robb, the state court reporter, did you get that final comment?
I did.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure you're able to capture everything. Okay, Ms. Forrest, my apologies for breaking in. Because you're breaking up on my end. That's why I just wanted to check.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Ms. Reinhardt, any additional questions?
Yes. Are you able to tell us what month you obtained possession? I believe I saw court documentation indicating February of this year.
It could be February.
Okay, so fair to say that there has been at least 6 months that you've had possession of the property?
Well, no, because the right of possession was granted, but I don't know when the sheriff department came to remove the squatters from this property, and it's on their schedule and not on mine. So I have the physical legal paper, but until the sheriff department was able to go in and remove them, I still didn't have possession. And I don't even know when they did that, because they said, they reassured me that they would let me know, but I didn't get any information. So the first time I was even able to look at this property was not until later in 2022.
I have no further questions for Ms. Forrest, but I would like to recall Inspector Gonzalez if nobody else has
please.
questions. Okay.
Yes.
Inspector Gonzalez, when you were there recently at the property, can you did you find any squatters?
No.
I have no further questions.
Okay.
But the squatters would be inside, they would be outside. And the chairs that are situated outside is for somebody to sit there. I'm not there.
Okay, Ms. Forrest, just only lightly related, but I'm curious, have you engaged an architect or contractor or real estate attorney to work with you on resolving these problems?
I don't currently have one, no.
Okay, so do you have a contractor or an architect helping you with the design and repairs?
I have not, I've had people to measure the windows. And I've had different people to, I've asked different people if they could, help me do different things to help get this property up to snuff. I mean, I the property so that I could repair it and get it to a habitable place.
Do you have
So that's my goal.
Do you have a schedule that's set up to renovate the property? You have a renovation schedule already established and financing in place?
I have contacted the utility people to find out what needs to be done to get the utilities on. Currently, my estimated time to get the property where it should be is between 3 and 9 months.
Okay. It appears that it's in substantial decline, so you're going to need some significant investment in this property, but okay. Anyone else have any questions? No? Okay. Well, then we will poll the board regarding HA-2021-004725 Chanel Forest 2466 Garnett Street, City affirmed.
City affirmed.
City affirmed.
City affirmed.
City affirmed.
Thank you very much, Ms. Forrest. The decision to board is the city's violation notice in the process has been affirmed. You lost your appeal. Now, you may appeal our decision, but if you would like, you can check with the administrator. They can give you directions as to how to do that. But at the moment, the city's position has been affirmed. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, Board. May Inspector Gonzalez please be excused if this is his
Yes.
own case? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings
Okay,
us
let's
to
move.
case number 29 and 30, same defendant. I'll read 29 into the record first. Hearing appeal number HA 2022-002765. Desiree S. McDonald, 5414 West Thompson Street. Case number 30, hearing appeal 2020-002766. Desiree S. McDonald, 5414 West Thompson Street.
Okay, I believe that's Deidre.
Yes.
Deidre, I apologize.
Okay, so who's representing the city in this matter?
Good afternoon, Michelle Reinhardt for City of Philadelphia.
Okay, Ms. Deidre McDonald,
Yes.
we'd like to see your image, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. It won't let me. Oh, geez. It's unable to access. Allow Zoom. Oh, it's telling me I have to go into privacy. Oh, Jesus, what is this? Can I just step away to get someone to help me get my camera working, please?
Sure. What we will do, we will move on to the next matter and we'll come back to you. Okay?
Okay,
So as
thank
soon
you.
as you can, as soon as you can get on your image on the camera, do that, and then we'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on.
Afternoon, Mary Field Security, how can I help you?
Brings us down to case number 31. Hearing appeal number HA 2022-002-445, Sylvia Caba, 2000 Larry Street.
Michael Rulo on behalf of the city. And I am happy to report that actually during the pendency of this, we were able to reach a settlement agreement, or might have been shortly before. So this matter can be marked based on what the board said earlier as a city affirm, and the stay of enforcement is to April 4th of 2023.
Okay, thank you then. If there aren't any further questions, we will then poll the board regarding. Now you said April 23rd, Mr.
April
Rulo?
4th. April
4th. Okay, just one moment. Just want to make sure I have that correctly.
And actually, if I could just note this for the record, I learned yesterday evening, actually, that the appellant had retained counsel, Mr. Jeffrey Young, and I don't believe that that was reflected in the documents yet. So I just wanted to note that for the record.
Okay, is he present today?
I do not see him.
Was he part of the negotiations to resolve this matter?
And he executed the agreement, which we provided to the board.
Okay, thank you. All right. Then with regard to number 31, HA-2022-002-445, Sylvia Caba, city affirmed per the agreement between the parties with stay of execution to April 4th, 2022. It can't be April 2022, 2023, I believe.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, April 4th, 2023.
City affirmed per agreement, stay of enforcement until April 4, 2023.
City affirms stay of enforcement till April 2023.
City affirms stay of enforcement until April 4th, 2023.
City affirms stay of enforcement until April 4th, 2023 per agreement.
Thank you. All righty. Thank you very much. Okay, what do we have next?
It looks like Deidre's still not on, so I'll go down to case number 36. Hearing appeal number HA 2022-003-625, Gary Collins, 5133 North 15th Street.
Okay, and Mr. Collins apparently is representing himself as an attorney. Who's representing the city?
It's Christopher Johnson for the city of Philadelphia.
Okay, thank you. Is Mr. Collins present? Okay. Someone have something to add?
He's muted. Just as a preliminary matter, I wanted to raise the board's attention.
Well, Mr. Johnson, wait a minute. If he's muted, I want him to be unmuted before you speak, okay? Just so that we can have him engaged in everything that's done. Mr. Wade, if you can you unmute him?
I'm asking him to.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, how you doing?
Okay, Mr. Collins, there's a considerable amount of background noise.
Yeah, is that better?
A little better. You're a little loud though. If you could turn your volume down, and we're getting some feedback. Do you have more than one device open, or someone near you with a device is open?
No, there's not. I only have this hearing on one device, and that's my laptop computer.
Okay. All right. Mr. Collins, I need to, are you representing yourself as an attorney?
Yes, I'm representing myself as an attorney.
Okay.
And I believe the preliminary matter that he was going to discuss
Mr.
was whether or
Collins,
not
Mr.
the
Collins,
member.
Mr. Collins, you're getting ahead of yourself.
Okay,
As the chair, I get to set the tone of the hearing. So what I'd like
okay,
you to do is raise your right hand so that you may be sworn.
okay.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give would be the truth so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Johnson, as representing the city, will speak first, and then we'll come to you, Mr. Collins. Mr.
Okay, thank
Johnson?
you.
Okay, so Mr. Collins had filed this petition for appeal. It's appealing the cease operations at 5133 North 15th Street in the city of Philadelphia. And on his appeal petition, he had written that it was related to the landlord himself and other similar occupants, but I did a search and I don't believe he's licensed to practice in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I would say, like, there's no evidence that he has authority to represent anyone other than himself in this hearing.
Okay. Mr. Collins, one, are you a licensed attorney in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
Yes,
You're muted, sir. Yeah.
My documentation to prove that. This is a bar reporter. The way that you get this is for you to be a member of the Philadelphia Bar.
Okay, sir, I'm not, let's back up a little bit. Are you licensed in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania? And if you are, do you have a number that you can give us?
Yes, PAL 277976.
Okay.
I would submit, I checked the bar, that number, they have no record of it with the Pennsylvania Disciplinary Board.
Okay. Mr. Collins, are you representing anyone other than yourself in this matter?
I would have to object to his findings because I don't think that you go to the Pennsylvania Disciplinary Board to confirm whether or not that somebody is licensed to practice in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I would like to put that objection.
Your objection is overruled, but I would like you to answer directly my question. Are you representing anyone other than yourself?
I'm representing myself, the landlord, and the other occupants at the residence, yes.
Okay. For purposes of this hearing, you only have standing to represent yourself. Now, is the landlord on this call? Is the owner on this call?
No, he's not.
You are a resident at this location?
Yes, I am.
Okay. If we can proceed with you representing yourself and your own interest, your sole interest as a resident, we can do that. Mr. Johnson, would that be an issue?
That's not an issue. I just want to clarify that he only represents himself in this matter.
Absolutely. For purposes of this hearing, he only represents himself. Now, Mr. Collins, you can proceed that way or not. It's your choice.
I will proceed that way, but my objection still stands.
Okay, noted for the record that the objection was overruled. All right, thank you. So, Mr. Johnson, please proceed.
The city is going to call Inspector Anthony Gonzalez. Inspector Gonzalez.
My apologies. I didn't realize I was muted again. Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Gonzalez, raise your right hand so that you may be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you give today be the truth so help you God?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
If it please the board, may I share my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Gonzalez, can you please tell us where you're employed?
License and inspection, City of Philadelphia.
And what is your position with the city?
Code enforcement fire investigator.
Are you familiar with the property at 5133 North 15th Street?
Yes.
And how did you become aware of that property?
So with this property, we became aware we had a room and house special program with the fire department, I went and inspected it with the fire department. We concluded that it was a rooming house. I actually wrote it up for a rooming house. The owner got in contact with me for the second inspection before we ceased the property and actually fixed the violations. He removed the double key lock doors from bedroom doors. He removed a couple of doors from the living room that was made into a bedroom. So he converted it back into a living room. And
What's the zoning for the property?
a single family.
Okay. And I'm just gonna share and just so the board's aware, I'm gonna show some photographs that you had taken, okay?
Yes.
All right, can you see the my screen?
Now, yes.
Okay. Are you familiar with the image that is on the screen as Exhibit 1?
Did you click on a specific one or just overall?
Yeah, you
Are
have
they- they're-
a whole group of photos, Mr.
Okay,
Johnson.
hold on a second. Okay. Are you familiar with the image that's shown as Exhibit 1?
Yes.
And tell us what we're looking at.
It appears to be a door with double key locks on the doorknob.
And is that inside of 5133 North 15th Street?
Yes.
How about what's marked as Exhibit 2? Can you see the image marked as Exhibit 2?
Yes. That's another room inside the interior of the home that has key lock doorknobs as well.
Okay.
That's the room right next to that bedroom as well.
Okay. I'm going to share now what's marked as Exhibit 3. Can you tell me what is in Exhibit 3?
It appears to be also the double key locks for a room house unit.
When you say double key lock, I'm thinking that there's a lock that requires 2 keys. That did not look like that. Could you just clarify for me, please?
So just the key where for you to enter that bedroom, you need a key from the exterior of the bedroom instead of a normal single family home where you just would turn the knob to go inside of the actual bedroom instead of the bedroom locked with a key, which is a fire safety hazard.
Thank you.
And I'm showing what's marked as Exhibit 4. Can you tell us what's Exhibit 4?
The kitchen.
How many kitchens are in the premises?
I've only seen one.
And I'm showing now what's marked as Exhibit 5. Can you tell us what this is?
Okay, so that was back on my reinspection before we ceased the property. That was actually a bedroom that the owner removed the door. If you see like that exterior light coming in on the right-hand side, that was actually a door there. That was key locked as well that he removed and made it back into like a living room / dining room section for a single family home.
Okay.
And basically that's also the same room leading into the dining room section. So both of those rooms were used as a bedroom.
Mr. Johnson, can you change the orientation of that image? Just
Yeah.
click on the orientation button, see if it'll turn it around.
Hold on, this one was. Sideways. So this is number 6. Can you see
Okay.
number 6?
Yes.
And what do we see in number 6?
So that's basically now when on the reinspection, I'll consider that like the dining room, because the first where you see the TV at behind those pink doors was the living room. This is considered the dining room, and then right after that is the kitchen. But the owner had all of these except for the kitchen blocked off with door locks and converted them into bedrooms.
Okay. So how many people were living in the property?
At the time of the rooming house, between like 6 to 7.
And these were not all related individuals?
No.
And so what would the definition of a rooming house be under the Philadelphia Code?
A rooming house is a rooming house with 3 and more unrelated people.
So this would have qualified?
Yes.
And what happened after your inspections?
So with the reinspection that we did, we was able to comply the case because he removed the key locks from the bedrooms. Couple of the bedrooms that had beds in them were removed. He told me some of the tenants left. So at the time of the inspection, only 3 unrelated people were staying at the property. So we complied the case. Inspector back out there, it was operating as a room house again.
And so I'm going to share my screen.
Oh, wait a second, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Gonzalez.
Okay.
That it was complied. When was it complied? When was that inspection made?
That inspection was complied back in June 28, 2022.
All right, and then you re-inspected it. When was the re-inspection?
So Inspector Wallace went back out there on a complaint of a rooming house on August 18th of 2022.
What did you say, August what?
August 18, 2022.
And then it was being used once again by more than 3 unrelated people?
Yes.
And I've shared my screen. Do you see the what's marked as the city exhibit? I'm going to mark it at exhibit 7 at page 1. What is this?
That's the intent to cease order.
And was this with the result of Inspector Wallace's inspection? Yes. Now, have you had any interaction with the owner of the property since that time?
The owner actually called me today in the morning and basically told me that he does plan on making it back into a single family home. But that's what he told me last time as well, when I actually was the one that complied the case.
What's the owner's name?
1 second. I have it in my notes.
Mr. Johnson, does your witness have that information you need?
Would it help you if I shared my screen again?
No, I got it. It's Miguel Pierre. Did y'all hear me?
No, would you spell that first and last name, sir?
Yes, it's Miguel, and then the last name Pierre.
Okay, Miguel Pierre. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So in terms of a rooming house, how many bathrooms are in the place?
Bathrooms, I believe there was, from what I remember, one or two.
And how many unrelated individuals were living in there?
At the time of my inspection, it was between 5 to 7. That's how many bedrooms we counted with like beds and stuff there. Not everybody was actually physically there. But you know, speaking to some of the tenants, that's the numbers that they gave me.
I have no other questions for Mr. Gonzalez, but I would ask that the exhibits be admitted to the record.
So admitted. Mr. Gonzalez, I do, on the reinspection, according to the record that you have that was done by Mr. Wallace, did he note the number of individuals in the building upon reinspection?
1 second, I'll tell you right now. Inspector Wallace said that he was informed that there was 5 related and 2 unrelated people residing at the property, but he saw divisions back from the porch because the tenants did not let him inside of the property. He observed separation of the house.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Collins, do you have any cross-examination?
Wait.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I just have one follow-up for Mr. Gonzalez. Why is it important to the city that the use of the property as a rooming house be stopped in order to conform the zoning?
Because it triggers a fire safety hazard. Once it becomes a rooming house, the building is going to need more fire safety features than a regular single-family home.
So would this be meet the fire code? The fire code provisions for the occupancy that was going on there as a rooming house?
No.
Would that present a safety hazard to the occupants and other individuals in neighboring structures?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Collins, do you have any cross-examination of Mr. Gonzalez based on his testimony?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
The cross-examination is this. Okay, did Mr. Gonzalez himself or the new investigator, Bruce Wallace, consider any exceptions that might apply to this premises?
There was no exceptions made to us that we was aware of.
But did you even look at, because you violated us under the city zoning code and ordinance in that regard, and more specifically what I'm referring to is you violate us under A-701.1, where you said that a certificate of occupancy is required in the following cases. And we go to number 1, where it says erection of a new building, or 2, erection of an addition to a building, or 3 is what you actually did violate us on, which was a change from one occupancy classification to another. And in that regard, and then 4 is relocation of a building, 5 is interior alterations of an existing building or space, and 6, I have a question mark where it says a change of occupancy as defined in A-106.1, and in that regard. And then, okay, exceptions are a certificate of occupancy is not required under the following conditions. 1, the work is limited to to additions or alterations to an existing 1 or 2 family occupancies. And you just admitted in direct examination that this is a 1 family dwelling occupancy. So by the accessory addition to this building, that is a permissible use.
I'm going to object. He's calling for a legal conclusion.
Mr. Collins, you can argue your case when it gets your turn, But what I'm asking,
All right, okay, all right, so, but my question is here is that, do you even consider looking under the code, under allowable uses and permissible, accessory uses?
Yes.
Why didn't you
change
consider?
the rooming house, you change the use of the actual use of the building.
But however, an accessory use can be used in conjunction
Change the zoning.
with primary use. Right, you did that. And not only that, regarding Bruce Wallace, and I don't know whether or not you touch bases or not, but you're saying that he said that 5 non-related and 2 related and 2 people that were related, or is it?
it was the reverse, 5 related
Okay.
and 1 related.
Okay, so it was 5 related and 2 unrelated, which he's saying that makes 7. But he didn't actually go into the premises and count how many people that was living in here. And then when he did his investigation, where did Mr. Wallace conduct his investigation from? Did he actually go inside the premises, or
Well, let
was
him
he?
answer the question. Let him answer the question. What is your response, Mr. Gonzalez?
I'm sorry, so what part was the question?
The question was, where did Mr. Wallace conduct his investigation?
From the front porch.
Okay, now how can you sit there and redetermine without going inside the premises, okay, that this was operating as a rooming house again?
Well, he was informed that there was 5 related and 2 unrelated. Also, the door that the owner took down from the living room, that was originally a bedroom when I first sighted the property, then got converted back into the living room. Actually had the door back on it.
And your proof of that is what? What's your proof of that?
What's my proof of what?
That the door was back on what in the area of the premises that you're saying that is now back in violation.
Let me see if we have any documents. Give me 1 second. So the only document we have of Inspector Wallace is from the exterior, but that's just what he noted.
Inspector, just a minute. There's a terrible, terrible echo, and I'm having a great deal of difficulty hearing. I don't know about our recorder, but perhaps Mr. Collins, if you mute your system while the inspector's talking.
I'll mute it.
I don't know, but there's some problem here.
Yeah, it seemed to work.
I've
Yeah,
been
that
trying to
worked.
mute him while he wasn't talking.
Okay,
Is it better
that
now?
worked. Okay, yes, Mr. Gonzalez, answer the question.
Yes, so Inspector Wallace did the inspection from the front porch. He was denied entry inside of the interior, but he did note it on his case that there was separation. There's no the only document photo that he does have is from the front door from the exterior, so I can only go off of his notes.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Just to keep me in line with everything, was it testified to that one of the inspectors had interviewed the tenants?
That was
Just
Mr.
the number.
Gonzalez on previous inspections,
Okay, thank you.
as well as Mr. Wallace spoke with residents when he inspected. They both did. Okay, Mr. Collins, we unmute him again. Mr. Collins?
Yes, my whole argument here is that just by standing on the porch or whatever he's doing, or whatever his note is not sufficient enough to prove that this building or that this premises is operating as a rooming house again. You're not too sure whether
I'm gonna object. That's not a question.
Okay, Mr. Collins, as I've indicated earlier, you will have an opportunity to put on a case. In the moment, you're doing cross-examination.
Okay.
I'd ask you to proceed as quickly as possible to get that portion done so you can get to your.
Okay, and in that regard, well, actually, as far as Mr. Gonzalez, I don't have no further questions for him.
Okay,
Could I
thank
have
you very
one
much.
more brief redirect?
Yes.
Inspector Gonzalez, you testified earlier that you had spoken to the owner of the property today. Is that correct?
Yes.
And he admitted to you that it was a rooming house and he was changing it to a single family. Is that correct?
Yes.
I have nothing further.
Thank you very much. Mr. Collins, it's your turn to put your case on. What I'd ask you to do, given that we're having such difficulty with your Wi-Fi connection, just ask you to slow down and not speak so loud, and then we can get through this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kenneth Wilson. Woodson.
Yes. Yes.
Thanks. I appreciate that, and may it prove this administrative body. My whole case is this: the evidence is too insufficient to even prove a violation and to uphold and affirm the cease of operation order. They have not proven by clear and convincing evidence that the landlord is even in violation, or even proven that this is operating as a rooming house again. And in that regard, understandably, Mr. Wallace or through Mr. Gonzalez did say he spoke to the owner this morning and that he intends to move it back to a single family dwelling house. However, under other laws and applicable ordinances under the Philadelphia Ordinance Code under Section 91108, this will be a form of discrimination, and in that regard, that if this type of housing accommodation is not allowed to be permitted, it would deny the rest of the occupants, okay, in this house, and myself in particular, which I'm presenting a case on, which is for myself, it would deny me a housing accommodation, which will be discriminatory under the Fair Housing Act of the federal law of 1968, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and the city of Philadelphia.
Okay. Mr. Collins, we do have a few questions for you in your role as a resident. How long have you lived at this location?
I lived at this location almost 20 months.
20 months? Okay. And do you rent a room or do you rent the whole house?
I rent a room here.
Okay. How many other rooms are being rented and occupied?
There is 5 other rooms there.
Okay. And you indicated in your argument that there was a particular accommodation that was protected in the protected class. What protected class are you referencing?
The particular class that I'm representing here is that you're going on the issue of familial status. And familial status, it tells you in the city ordinance 9.11081, and in that regard, okay, you cannot discriminate on that basis. It also tells you under Title 43, Section 955, under Section H1, regarding the same familiar status. You don't have to be, it doesn't matter whether you're related or not, okay, and in that regard. First of all, like I said, they have not proven whether or not that this is actually operating as a rooming house again.
Okay, thank you.
Could I ask a few questions on Cross?
Yes, that's what I was going to offer you. The witness asked for Cross.
Right.
Oh, for examination. Right.
So, Mr. Collins, do you have a lease, or are you on a month-to-month arrangement?
A month-to-month lease, yes.
Okay. And you filed this emergency appeal to be heard on an expedited basis. Is that correct?
That is correct, because when I filed the appeal with the license and inspection, I didn't include this in the original appeal, but when I went to the office at JFK and went downstairs to file the appeal, they told me that I had to file this emergency appeal along with it.
So the main reason, and I'm going to share the screen now, you filled out this form. The main reason that you filed this emergency appeal was all occupants need more time to find new places to live. Isn't that correct?
That was one of the main reasons, yes. The other reason is that I have health problems and I receive home health care. This is my medical alert monitor. If you would force the cease of operation, you would put me out on the street. Okay, I might have to hit this button, or I may not be able to use my medical alert monitor because I don't have the receptacle to use it.
Now, would it be, so how much time do you think would be fair to give you a time to find a new place to live?
That I cannot admit because that I cannot tell you because the price of rent is so skyrocketing. What most landlords are requiring now is that you pay 3 months rent up front and then your income, okay, has to be 3 times the amount of what the rent is. So it is very, very hard for people that are working to find a proper place. And so how do you put a proper time to this? You can't.
I have nothing further.
30 days is not enough time to find a proper place because, like I said, because of the requirement. Now, according to the city ordinance, most respective real estate agencies or landlords are not supposed to discriminate according to source of income. And I'm quoting.
Mr. Collins, you've responded. I have a question for Mr. Gonzalez, if I may. Mr. Gonzalez, the violations that were written, did they include any fire code violations?
That's my question, Mr. Chair.
On my original case or the
Yes, both.
On both. No, so with those violations, we usually target the zoning. Because once the zoning is violated, then if they, let's say, get granted a zoning, then that's when the fire safety inspection will come through the application. But as of right now, no, it was just a change of use and basically the zoning.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
Inspector Gonzalez, at the time of your inspection, were there any working smoke detectors in the property?
I have my documents right. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I see that there were some that needed battery and some that were working, but not all of the smoking detectors were operating.
So there were some present there. All of them were not operating, and there was no violation written for the ones that were not operating, correct?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions of Mr. Collins? Okay. What we would do then, and actually, Mr. Collins, I do have another question for you. Does the owner currently reside at that address?
No, he does not. And may I render an update on?
No. I'm asking a question. So the
No.
owner does not reside at that address.
He does not reside at that address.
The second question to you is the owner has expressed to Mr. Wallace that he plans to convert it back to a single family house. What is your understanding would be the status of your rental agreement when he does that?
Rental agreement, my understanding is that he had told me that we would be making a new lease.
And I'm asking you, what will you be leasing? Will you be leasing the whole house?
I will be leasing the room that I'm currently in.
But if it's a single family property, you understand that no more than 3 unrelated adults can live in that property, correct?
And I will be one of, well, then again, that would violate the city ordinance as well as statutory law regarding putting limitations on a type of occupancy.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Before we close, is there, Mr. Johnson, do you have any further closing statements before we call the vote on this?
Yeah, I think the city's position on this is that the occupancy that's currently going on in the premises doesn't meet the requirements of the Philadelphia Code with regard to zoning and occupancy. It's currently zoned as a single-family dwelling. The single-family dwelling requires a certain level of consanguinity among the members. Right now, there are 5 related and 2 unrelated people living in the property, one of which is Mr. Collins, and that's in violation of the code. He's bringing in parts of the code that are not related to the use of buildings or zoning to try and claim that there's some discrimination going on here, which there isn't. The zoning code is very clear about what's required in order to use the property as a rooming house, and this building does not meet the requirements. That said, I think the city is comfortable if the board wishes to give him a month or two grace period or some time before a stay of enforcement. I think it may be appropriate to give extra time in order to allow the residents at the building to find new housing.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, have you had any conversations with the building's owner?
No, I have not.
Has he reached out to you to try to reach an accommodation as he works on converting this to a single family house?
No.
Okay, I'd ask the same question to Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Gonzalez, have you heard from the owner regarding trying to negotiate or an accommodation?
When I spoke to him this morning, he just told me that he's going to convert it back into a single family home. And how he does it is, he hasn't really given me any type of details on that. But like I say, he did convert it back into a single family home back in June, but had it back up and running as a rooming house in August.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We will now poll the board. My apologies. We will poll the board on HA-2022-003-625 5133 North 15th Street. City affirmed 90-day stay of enforcement.
I'm reluctant to provide that long a stay of enforcement. I would maximum make it 60 days, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Excuse me so much. I'm not sure why I'm coughing all of a sudden, but I will then change my vote to city affirmed 60-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed 60-day stay of enforcement.
Thank you, Mr. Pickens. City affirmed 60-day state of correction. City affirmed 60-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed 60-day stay of enforcement.
Thank you very much. I think that resolved this matter. Mr. Collins, as you understand, this is city affirmed. City's position prevails with a 60-day stay of enforcement. Thank you very much. If you choose to, the owner or someone else who has an active interest in this appeal can appeal it. Just check in with the office. They can tell you how to appeal this matter. Thank you. Please unmute Mr. Collins, please.
Yes, I actually heard what you said. The city has affirmed its position. However, there's a stay of enforcement for 60 days.
Correct. All right. Thank you. Have a good day. Have a good afternoon.
You too. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, I think the previous case is now back with us. At least I think I saw her image.
Yes.
Okay, would you call that case, please?
Okay. Case is number 29. Hearing appeal number HA 2022-002-765, 5414 West Thompson, Deirdre S. McDonald. Case number 30. Hearing appeal 2022-002-766, Deidre S. McDonald, 5414 West Thompson.
Okay. Who's representing the city?
Good afternoon, Board. Michelle Reinhardt for City of Philadelphia.
Okay, Ms. Reinhardt. Ms. McDonald, and would you raise your hand, please, so that you may be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today will be the truth to help you God?
I affirm.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Reinhardt, do you have any witnesses for today?
I do. Inspector Faulkner is on the hearing.
Okay, do I need to swear him in, I believe?
Here.
Mrs. Faulkner, Inspector Faulkner, raise your right hand so that you may be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today be the truth to help you God?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. You can place your hand down. Okay, Ms. Reinhardt. Oh, before we begin, Ms. McDonald, are you the sole owner of this property?
Yes.
No one else's name is on the deed?
No.
Is this your residence?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Ms. Reinhardt.
Thank you. Inspector Faulkner, can you please introduce yourself with your name, your title, and your employment?
Inspector Sean Faulkner, Code Enforcement Inspector, Licenses and Inspections,
How long have you had this position?
since 2013.
Did you review this file to prepare for this hearing?
Yes.
Pardon. I am going to share my screen with what has been previously marked and circulated as Exhibit A. Just one moment, please. Are you able to see Exhibit A?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I see. Yes.
This is an initial notice of violation and order dated September 26th, 2019 for 5414 West Thompson Street. Can you please tell us what this violation notice found?
This violation was for vacant structure license at the above mentioned property.
Okay, and I am scrolling down to the final notice of violation dated August 21st, 2020. At that time, was the violation still found?
Yes.
Okay. I am going to handle both of these cases together. So this is, Exhibit B is going to be for the second case, just for the record. So Exhibit B is an initial notice of violation and order.
Okay, Ms. Reinhardt, please note which case is considered the second case.
Sure. Just one moment. So number 31 on the list is the violations that correspond with Exhibit A.
What I'm referencing is what is the appeal number that you consider in the second case?
Okay, it is HA 2022-00244 002766.
Okay, thank you. That's considered case number 2.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And then just for the record, the appeal number for the first case, which is listed as number 29 on our list, is HA 2022-002765.
Okay, thank you.
Let me double check something briefly. So Exhibit B actually corresponds to appeal ending in 2766 or 2765, and Exhibit A goes to
Ms. Reinhardt, your connection is, we're losing your connection. Ms. Reinhardt, we completely lost your connection. You froze. So what I'm going to,
I am able. Sorry, go ahead.
It just came back, so you're gonna have to repeat everything you said prior to just now.
I'm gonna put her in the waiting room and bring her back in.
Okay, thank you. All right, any luck, Mr. Wade?
She's still in the waiting room trying to connect.
Okay.
Bless.
I apologize. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes.
Thank you. So Exhibit A corresponds to appeal number.
Uh-oh.
Am I still frozen? Should I try to log in differently?
Yes, you were frozen. You may have been speaking, but we didn't hear a thing you said. How about this? Before you go away, do you have the ability to maintain your image on your, hopefully that's your laptop or computer? And can you come in on your phone? Turn the volume down on your computer, come in on your phone so we can hear you on your phone. Can you do that?
I can try, but I don't. I believe the connection issue is with my computer, not with what the computer is able to do. But
that's what I'm saying. If your computer continues to freeze, if you have your phone on, if you call in, you can communicate with us through the phone, but we maintain your image on the computer. Just turn the volume of your computer completely down so there's no echo.
Okay, I will try to get that connection now.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just thought I'd mention, I don't know whether anyone else has any plans from a religious standpoint. It is about 4:45, I believe.
Okay. Mr. Pincus, I really appreciate you being here this long. And if there's a need, you may excuse yourself. We do have a quorum if you need to leave.
I'm just wondering if any of the other parties that are still online with us.
Okay. Is there anyone else present who has a need to be excused for religious observance?
Yes, I do. I keep the Sabbath and it's the Day of Atonement. So that's why I'm trying to, I was hoping to call sooner so I can get through this case that I've been trying to get through for some time. And
okay. Now, what is your time frame, Miss McDonald?
The service starts at 5:30. So I still have to get prepared, but I'm going to try to stay on here as long as I can. And I'm hoping to get this resolved. That's why I'm here.
Okay. All right. We will try to accommodate you. We will do everything we can to get this through. I have not, Mr. Wade. Please note if anyone else is raising a hand or putting any chat in something in the.
Nothing as of yet.
Okay, thank you.
Like we're ready to go, Mr. Chair. I see Ms. Reinhardt on 2 screens.
Okay, Ms. Reinhardt, are you ready to go?
And also AKA Shelley. So.
Okay, Ms. Reinhardt, are you ready to go? We can't hear you. So one of your you need to speak into your phone if you're going to use that for audio. It keeps muting you.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. So Exhibit A is for appeal ending 2766, and Exhibit B is for appeal ending 2765, just to clarify.
Okay.
Green is
Yeah, I'm here too.
frozen, but I will attempt to share Exhibit A at this time.
Okay.
All right.
Are you able to see what has
Yes.
been, okay. This is an initial notice of violation and order dated September 26, 2019 for 5414 West Thompson Street, previously marked Exhibit B.
Okay.
Inspector, can you tell us what was found at the time of this inspection?
Time of inspection, property was vacant with high weeds, trash on the side and in the rear, but the property is secured.
Okay. And moving down to Exhibit C, this is a series of photographs. These were taken on, apologies, March 28th, 2020, according to the LNI system. Are you able to verify that, Inspector?
Yes.
And what are we looking at in the first photograph?
Front exterior.
And in the next photograph, what do we see here?
Side exterior.
Okay, with noted vegetation,
Yeah,
and
overlook the vegetation.
and
Trash
in
in
the
front. Yes.
okay, and the third photograph, what do we see here?
Looks like the front of the property, a closer view with some boxes or trash or debris on the porch. Trash can, a bag of what looks like it was some weeds and some other sticks, branches from trees, the front yard, maybe some trash as well.
I'm moving down to what has been marked Exhibit D. Do you recognize this picture?
Yes, the rear of the property.
Do you know who took this picture?
I don't, I'm not sure which inspector took it.
Okay. If I can represent that you sent me this photograph.
Oh, these are the ones I took. I'm sorry. Well, these wasn't in March of 2020 then. These were from September 28th, 2022. I'm sorry. I thought I heard you say from
Okay.
2020.
No, I moved on to the next exhibit. Thank you for clarifying. I misspoke. So you are saying that you went out to the property personally within the last week in order to check on the current status of the property?
Yes.
Okay. And what do we see in this photograph exactly?
You see the rear of the property. You see overgrowth of grass and weeds. You see trash, maybe some building materials, a lot of stones on the sidewalk.
Okay, moving to the second photograph, what are we looking at here?
Side exterior of the property with high weeds, overgrown grass.
And in the final photograph?
Front of the property, front exterior, secured, but front yard, overgrown weeds and grass, possibly a little bit of debris.
Can you tell us what violations remain on this property at this time?
Vacant structure license, exterior sanitation, exterior trash, vacant property standard.
Okay. was this property still vacant at the time of your inspection?
Yes.
I have no further questions for this witness.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McDonald, do you have any questions of Inspector Faulkner based on his testimony?
Yes, you said those pictures were taken in September the 28th of this year,
Yes,
22?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Because I had someone cut down trees, branches. That property is clear. The porch is clear, the front was clear. Now, if the grass grown in the last 2 to 2.5 weeks, it may be possible for that vegetation to be there because I have not sent anyone out there to cut the grass. And due to the rain,
Miss McDonald, you just ask him a question. Do you have other
Yeah.
questions? You'll have a moment to share with us your understanding of things, but just ask him the questions that you need answered, okay?
No, I really need to know that those pictures were taken
Yeah,
September.
he responded to you. He said the 28th is when he said
Yes,
he
ma'am.
took.
This pictures were taken on September the 28th, 2022, and they were uploaded into the system the same day.
Okay.
Any additional questions?
Did it of the front of the property, is the pictures are the same for September the 28th?
Yes, ma'am. All 3 pictures, the front, the side, and the rear was all taken on September the 28th.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Reinhardt, do you have any additional witnesses?
I have no additional witnesses.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McDonald, share with us your understanding of these violations and what you've done to correct them.
Well, based on the violations, I've been talking to someone at the city, and I did ask questions in regards to a vacant property license that I mentioned before when I was on here. And the reason why I'm hesitant to get it, because they told me I need a plumber in order to have the license removed, and it's very difficult. I don't want to rent the property to anyone. I just want to fix it up, use it for family, use it to stay in when I'm in the city to live, and as a second home to get to work on time. But I don't want to have that license if it's going to be difficult to remove later. The second thing is I pay people to cut the trees in the back, to clear up the front, the porch, the sides. But it's a major problem there for me. I try not to get into no hostile arguments with anyone, but that's where people love to dump. It's garages across from the property that people rent for years. And what they do is they dump on the property. Even the neighbors dump on the property. Dogs on the property. And I try not to argue with anyone, but it's a constant thing. So what I try to do is pay people, pay guys to keep it clean. When a neighbor cut down her trees on the front of her house, she put everything inside of my property yard. I cleared all of it out. I tried to talk to her. She's elderly. I try not to say any mean words. And I just try to keep it clear, but, and I'm going to fix it up. I mean, it's going to take me some money. I poured some money into the property. I plan to pour even more money into the property. It's just a matter of after I got this new job 7 months ago, building up the money to fix it up. But I'm requesting not to have a vacant property license because if it's going to be difficult to remove it. That's all I'm asking.
Miss, I have a couple questions for you, ma'am. How long have you owned that house?
I had that house. It used to be a rental property. I had that house maybe more than 15 years.
Okay, you purchased it 15 years ago. Where do you live now currently? Are you a resident of Philadelphia?
No, I'm not a resident of Philadelphia, but I plan on coming back to Philadelphia. I'm in Philadelphia right
what
now.
is your what is your local where's your residence? Where do you reside?
I'm residing in my daughter's property on Master Street in the 5800 block of Master Street right now.
I thought you just testified that you were not a resident of Philadelphia.
I'm not a resident, but I'm staying in Philadelphia right now.
Give me your residence. Where are you a resident?
Oh, I live in Wayne, PA.
Okay. All right, thank you. Do you have photographs of the work that you said you did?
I have photographs, but I would have to upload them to you.
So you didn't prepare for this case today? You didn't submit them for this hearing today?
Honestly, sir, this new job has me overwhelmed and prepared.
So your answer is that you did not submit them for the hearing?
No, I did not. I apologize. No,
Okay. Okay, so the only evidence we have is what was submitted. Now, you understand A vacant property license is required if the property is not occupiable and occupied. So you will have to, based on code, you have to acquire a vacant properties license.
Okay.
So whatever you need to do that, then if you want to maintain the property, you should do that unless you want to continue to deal with violation notices.
Okay.
Does
I
anyone
do.
else?
Oh, I'm losing my bed. Oh, it died. Oh, my picture photo one died.
I'm not sure what's happening, Ms. McDonald.
No, my battery's trying to die on me. That's all.
Okay.
I'm here.
Ms. Reinhardt, do you have anything further to add?
Nothing further, no.
Okay.
No
Ms.
questions,
McD-
that is.
Thank you. Before we vote, Ms. McDonald, do you have anything further to add?
But I would like to be given an opportunity to send you photos if possible before you make your final decision.
Ma'am, today was the day to have everything in. This is the hearing, so no.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there's nothing further, we
I
will.
would just briefly like to make an argument.
Yes, please.
I would just like to note that the initial notice of violations were for 2019. This appeal was also made for both cases in 2019, and that the record reflects that the property is still vacant. That was
Okay.
it.
All right, thank you. Now we will now poll the board on HA-2022-002765, Dedra McDonald, 514 West Thompson Street, City of Fern.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Are we doing both of them at the same time? Or
No, we're going to vote on each case separately. We're going to vote on each case separately. Okay.
Okay.
The first vote is the City of Fern. Any next vote?
City affirm.
City affirm.
City affirm.
City affirm.
Thank you very much. With regard to HA-2022-002766, Dedra McDonald, 5414 West Thompson Street, City of Fern.
City affirm.
City affirm.
City affirm.
City affirm.
Thank you very much. Ms. McDonald, please follow through and do what you need to do to correct these. You lost your appeal. You may appeal this decision, but check in with the office. They can give you some information if you need it.
Okay,
Thank you. Have a good day.
You
Okay.
too. Bye.
Okay. What's next, Mr. Wade?
Case number 37. Hearing appeal number HA 2022-003886. Robert Gladden, 2321 Ridge Avenue.
Okay, who's representing the city?
Good afternoon, Board. Caroline Curley on behalf of the city.
Okay, Ms. Curley, good afternoon. Mr. Gladden, is Mr. Robert Gladden present?
I think it's Robert's iPhone. He is muted.
Okay.
Yes, I'm present.
Your name is Robert Gladden, sir?
Yes, sir. Robert Gladden III.
Okay. Okay, well, the violation was written to Robert Gladden. Are you the person who received the violation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, but please correct the record then to indicate that Robert Gladden should be noted as Robert Gladden III. Okay, sir, would you raise your right hand so that you may be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you give today is the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Curley, please proceed.
Yes, just as an initial matter, the city is going to raise an untimeliness objection. The violation was, the date of the notice of the violation was March 18th, 2020. The appellant filed his appeal on April 27th, 2020. So we would just raise an issue of timeliness.
Okay.
And I would just add, there's nothing in the appeal on its face to justify, undue, any of the extraordinary circumstances necessary for a non-protunct appeal.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gladden, is there any
Yes, sir.
reason why you didn't appeal during the allotted 30-day time period?
Well, sir, actually, I never got any notification about a hearing that took place until a week before last. That's when the appeal was filed. And I didn't get it.
There has not been a hearing yet. There was a violation notice.
Well,
Chairman.
I didn't,
I believe that the appellant is referring to the fact that this matter was initially scheduled, I believe
8/23.
in August.
8/23, this matter was scheduled. I brought this up prior to the hearing that the proper notice wasn't given.
Okay.
As
All
far
right.
as his violation notice, I believe was delivered, but the actual
Okay.
hearing,
Right.
we'll put this back on.
right.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And thank you very much for reminding me, Mr. Wade. Yes, Ms. Curley, we did review that and we decided to proceed today.
Right, but I think that's addressing the improper notice that was provided for the August hearing. I am raising an initial objection to this hearing, to the, it would have been the August hearing if we had had the hearing.
Okay.
And at this hearing, that there is not, he did not properly file his appeal within the 20-day period.
Okay. And I guess, Mr. Gladden, what is your response to why you didn't file within the required time frame? After you got the violation notice, not when you got the hearing notice.
Well, I just got the violation notice on wait a minute, I'm looking at the paper. The violation notice was, I don't have, only thing I got, I have a notice of intent to cease operations in order. I don't have a violations note. I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know enough about this. I'm just responding to a letter that I received.
Okay. What letter did you receive and what was the date of that letter?
Okay. The letter says that.
What's the date of it first?
Okay. I don't see a date on this cease and notice to cease. Notice of intent to cease operations in order, but I do
am
see
going
it.
to
No.
object to this, Chairman. This is a new violation that he has received that is not subject to this appeal, not subject to the matter before the board today.
Okay. Let's go back to something then. Ms. Curley, you may have it in your record so that we can kind of resolve this issue of standing and timeliness. What are you showing in terms of the violation dates and the responses?
Let me just share my screen so that everyone can see, and then that'll just probably make it easier. Hold, please.
And also, what is the nature of this case?
This is a vending cart violation, board. So if you can see my screen, this is the appellant's appeal. It is dated 4/27/2020 on the top.
Okay.
And the date of the violation, which I'm showing, it's marked as City Exhibit 1. The date of the notice is March 18th, 2020. So from March 18th, 2020 to April 27th, 2020 is more than 30 days. And nothing in this information provided down here indicates, you know, like I said, a breakdown in the administrative proceeding or any reason why this wasn't filed within 30 days.
And this is essentially operating without a vending license?
No.
No, it's a violation of the vending cart in and of itself.
Oh, okay. In terms of size, location, etc.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. And Mr. Gladden, do you have any of those documents that she just referenced?
No, I don't.
So are you prepared to proceed today, Mr. Gladden?
Yes, I am. But
what will your defense be if you don't have any of the documents?
My defense will be that in 2000, on the dates that the attorney gave, an inspector came to my car. See, you know what? It's really confusing to me and some other people involved.
Mr. Gladden,
yes.
No. Mr. Gladden, in order for us to give you a fair hearing, you need to be prepared. And you don't seem to be prepared for today's hearing. But we're at the point of dismissing the whole thing because you didn't file in a timely fashion.
Okay, I don't understand what you mean by that.
Well, I'm saying to you that the violation notice that you received gave you a particular amount of time to file an appeal. You didn't do that. You filed your appeal after the deadline. And so that's the problem to start with. Secondly, you don't seem to have any recollection of the details. You don't have any of the documentation in terms of the violation notices, the written, other written documents that are associated with your case. You said you didn't know anything about that. So that's where we are.
Oh, okay. Because I never received...
the city just wants to raise that objection, preserve that objection. We can go through the hearing
Okay.
If the board prefers.
Okay, I would make a note of the record today that we will be doing this as an exception. The board does not like to hear things that aren't filed timely, because that just creates administrative nightmare for everyone. Mr. Gladden, if you have this experience again, you must follow the details of the instructions that are given to you.
Yes.
If not, you're at risk of losing the whole thing. You understand?
Yes. Yes, sir.
And we will be calling on you to produce documents during this hearing. If you don't have it, you aren't prepared, we will vote on your case regardless. Okay?
So.
Something.
Yes, sir.
Notice sent to the owner's address. Did we clarify that to the proper address to the owner?
Oh, I didn't ask that question. You're correct. Miss Curley, what is the date on what are the addresses on those violations?
1849 Taylor Street.
Mr. Gladden, are those your addresses?
I would point out to the board that that is the same address provided by the appellant on his appeal paperwork.
Okay. Is that your address, Mr. Gladden?
That's my home address. The business address is 2323 West Ridge Avenue.
But you put your home address on your appeal.
Well, I mean, I probably, in writing the appeal, I probably did, but on here, it has my business address, 2323 West Ridge Avenue. Which is where all the mail comes from.
I would just add, this is not relevant to notice.
Okay,
we did provide notice to the appellant.
Okay.
We're happy to proceed.
Okay, let's proceed. Let's proceed. Okay. I don't want to waste anybody else's time. Let's proceed.
Yes, exactly. The department's first witness will be Miss Jones, who I do see present here.
Okay, Miss Jones, you raise your right hand so that you may be sworn. You'll need to unmute yourself. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today be the truth so help you God?
I do.
All right, thank you. Ms. Curley?
Ms. Jones, can you please state your employer and your position?
City of Philadelphia, Code Enforcement Inspector.
What do you do for the department?
I inspect vending conveyances, vacant houses, newsstands, things of that nature.
Okay, and are you familiar with the case before the board concerning this vending cart and Mr. Gladden?
I am familiar with it. I was not the person that wrote the original violation, but I was the last person at the location.
And that's at 2323 Ridge Avenue?
Correct.
Okay. And have you reviewed all of the department records on this matter?
I have.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen, Miss Jones. Let me know when you can see it. Can you see this? Oh.
Yes.
Okay. Do you recognize this document, City Exhibit 1?
It's a violation notice.
Okay. It's dated March 18th, 2020, directed to Mr. Gladden.
Correct.
And what's the violation that was written for his vending cart?
So it said it wasn't sufficiently mobile.
Okay. And that's what's written in the center of the notice of violation, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to scroll down to City Exhibit 2. Do you recognize what this is?
That's a kiosk.
Okay. Is that what we're talking about today?
Yes, it is.
And what's wrong with this kiosk under the Philadelphia Code? Just explain it to the board in simple terms.
Okay. That kiosk is only supposed to be utilized at the special vending district up at 52nd Street. Those kiosks were made distinctively for those vendors in that special vending district.
Okay. And that is not where 2323 Ridge Avenue is located, correct?
No.
Okay. And in City Exhibit 3, we see it. We see another angle of the vending cart.
Correct.
And when the violation says that this isn't sufficiently mobile, can you explain that a little bit more?
Well, the wheels are supposed to be a certain size. But again, that particular conveyance is only for 52nd Street.
Okay. Likewise, just another angle in City Exhibit 4, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And it's your understanding that this kiosk is still at the same location? There's been no effort by the appellant to remove it?
Well, when I was last there, it was there.
Okay. And
When was
okay.
the inspector, when were you last there?
Wait a minute, the notice went out the 12th of September. So I had to have been there the 9th of September.
Of 2020, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Board, I would just ask for the admission of City Exhibits 1 through 4.
So
Nothing further.
move. Anything else, Ms. Curley?
No, Board.
Okay, Mr. Gladden, do you have any questions of Ms. Jones based on her testimony? You can make your general statement later, but do you have any specific questions of her based on her testimony?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
My
please ask.
My first question is, what is the violation code for the vending cart not being at that location?
What do you mean the vending cart not being at the location? I'm not understanding your question.
Well, first of all, good afternoon, Ms. Jones. I talked to you.
Yes, you did.
And you never called me back.
Objection.
Mr.
Okay.
Gladden,
All right, okay,
this is
all right,
not a forum for that.
You're right. I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay, that's my first question. My second question is, what is the code or the ordinance for the cart not to be there? The second question is, when was it created?
Objection.
Okay, let's do this.
All right.
Let's do this. Ms. Jones, I think what he's asking, and we'd all like to know, what does the code require in terms of cart mobility? And you can give a general statement if you know it in terms of when the code was passed.
The carts, it's always been the carts, that type of conveyance, let me say that, not a mobile food cart. The wheel should be at least 8 inches. And in his case, as he tried to say, he did call and talk to me. And I tried to explain to him, those conveyances were made only for 52nd Street. He wouldn't be able to use that outside of 52nd Street.
Okay, let me ask this question this way. Does the code require that the carts be removed at the end of every day?
Yes, they do.
And so if there's a cart with wheels that it has to be suitable to be conveyed on the city street.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Mr.
Gladden,
yes.
Inspector Jones, special districts initiate particular type of conveyances where other districts don't. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Gladden, you have any other questions?
My next question was, to move into the solution, what do I need to do? Because I never knew what the violations were.
Objection.
Okay. Yeah, we can come back to that later, Mr. Gladden. Okay.
Okay.
If you don't have anything else, what we would do is, Ms. Curry, you have any other witnesses?
No, thank you, Board.
Mr. Gladden, give us your understanding of what's going on here.
Okay. My understanding of what's going on here is that in 2019, I thought it was 19, it might have been 20. An inspector came up about the cart, and the cart was, this was during the pandemic. The cart was closed. The next time they came, I had anchored the cart to the ground. So hoping nobody wouldn't take the cart. They came out and inspected it and said I couldn't have it anchored to the ground. I took the anchors out. It's just chained to my brother's garage. The auto body shop behind that is my brother, Malcolm McCoy. It's chained, it's got a chain, so you can't just take it. I did that, I complied with that. I complied with everything that went on. I received a phone call during the pandemic from the LNI office about that case. And they asked me, because I appealed it, did I want to pursue it further? And I said no. They said they had made a decision at the office, not to push forward with this or whatever. And I explained it was during the COVID and people were afraid and, everybody was tense. So I said, listen, just let it go. I thought this matter was completely done until I'm hearing about it now. That's where the confusion came in, because the date on the cease of order said 2020. And it was like 2020. I don't know.
Okay.
I also, listen, I sit on the board for the Ridge on the Rise CDC.
Mr.
development.
Glad, before you do that, no, let's
Yes.
keep it to this thing. You understand that vending carts must be moved when they aren't actively being used. You cannot attach them to the ground. You cannot attach them to a fence. When you finish operating, a vending cart has to be removed from the location. You understand that, correct?
No, I don't understand that,
Well,
because
that's
the ones
the
at
rule that
52nd
every
Street are
vendor in the
not.
city operates under, except for newsstands and special districts.
Okay, well, then it's a special district issue then, because 52nd Street, they don't move those carts.
That's right.
Okay,
There's a special
52nd
legislation.
Street
There's
is a
special
special
counsel.
district.
Okay,
They have
see, and
their
that,
own
that
set of rules.
Miss Jones?
I didn't know.
Wait. Miss Jones, you have to wait
Okay.
till your attorney calls you.
Right, I didn't know. Then that's what I'm saying about the solution. If they tell me what to do, I'll do it.
The
I'll
solution is to
comply with
move.
everything.
Well, you haven't, but the solution is to move your cart at the end of every time you vend. That's the current solution.
Okay.
That's
Now
the
I
solution.
understand. Now I understand.
Mr. Chairman, but his cart, if it's going to be a movable cart, doesn't comply with the regulations. If I understand this correctly from the testimony of Inspector Jones, he doesn't have the right size wheels on the cart to make it a movable cart. So that cart isn't suitable, if I understand it correctly, for any location in the city other than the special district at 52nd Street.
Okay.
Is that correct, Inspector?
It is.
Okay.
Absolutely correct.
Mr. Glad, you understand, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, do you understand that cart is only suitable for use at one location in the city, and the location where it presently is at 2323 Ridge Avenue is not a place where that particular cart can be used at all?
Excuse me.
No.
Now I got to get clarity.
Yeah.
If he was to make these wheels 8 inches or bigger, would that qualify as a legal cart on the street of
I
Philadelphia?
just want to remind the board.
I'm asking a question.
Yeah, can Ms. Jones respond to that question?
He cannot use that conveyance on Ridge Avenue. That's only for 52nd Street. So
Even if the wheels are bigger? Even if the wheels are bigger?
wheels was bigger, he still couldn't use it.
Okay, is that because of the size and the design,
The
etc.?
size, the design, all of it. He wouldn't be able to use it.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Curley, I cut you off, but you had something you wanted to share with us?
It's okay. I just want to remind the board that the violation before the board today is just for the mobility. There, Mr. Gladden has other.
Okay. Mr. Gladden, have you taken a look at this, the vending code in terms of cart sizes and requirements, etc.?
Yes, I have.
And do you understand what's the size limitations you have and what you have to do? Does that cart meet those requirements?
My first question was.
No, you have to answer my question.
What's the question again?
My question is, you affirm that you've read the code, and I'm asking, does your cart, the one you're currently using, meet the requirements of the code?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And my challenge is, no, listen, I've listened. There's no code. There's no code in any of it that says that cart can be there.
Sir.
No, okay.
You don't get to do that. I'm the chairman. Okay.
All right.
You listen and you are called upon to argue your case.
Yes.
Understand? Okay.
Yes.
There is a code. That's why you have a violation written. If you have a copy of the violation, please read it. It'll refer you to the code violation you have. Okay. Ms. Curley, do you have anything else?
No, board. Thank you.
Sir, do you have Mr. Gladden, you have anything else before we bring this to a vote?
Yes, I do. I have something else.
Okay.
And my challenge is that cart has been there for 4 years. 4 years. It's been inspected numerous times. No one ever said to me that cart was the only place those carts were used was at 52nd Street. I, along with some friends of mine, researched every code we could find. Nobody could find it. Ms. Jones didn't know what the code was when I initially talked to her. I called Darrell Clark's office. I spoke to Malik. I spoke to state. I spoke to numerous people who had no idea of what this was.
I am
Nobody.
just gonna object for
Okay, well,
relevance.
that's okay. No, so
Nobody.
noted.
Nobody
Override,
had,
just wanted to
nobody
complain.
knew nothing about this.
Okay, all right. And before we call this to a vote, Mr. Gladden, what I would
Yes.
say to you is that I would refer you to the existing code, and Ms. Jones or someone else can give you the code reference where it describes the size and of vending carts that are permitted as mobile vending carts. It can tell you all of that stuff. And there's legislation that can reference you to the legislation regarding the special vending unit district in 52nd Street. All that is available as a public record, but we can reference that to you. And I'm asking Ms. Jones or Ms. Curley, someone else, if not Ms. Jones, to share that information with Mr. Gladden. And it should have been given to you when you first got your vending license. That stuff should all been part of your vending license package. If not, it's available to you. Okay?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Curley, you have any closing statement before we proceed?
Just very briefly would just, I think I asked, but just, I would like to admit city exhibits 1 through 4, and I would just remind Mr. Gladden and reference the notice of violation that does reference the Philly code that is responsible for vending carts. It's in section 9-205 that has all of the requirements for vending carts and was provided to him in 2020. So based on the testimony provided today and the fact that Mr. Gladden has not provided sufficient evidence to refute those violations, we would ask for a city affirm.
Okay, thank you. We will then poll the board on HA-22-003-886, Robert Gladden III, vending matter at 2321 Ridge Avenue. City affirm.
City affirmed.
City affirmed.
City affirm.
City affirm.
Thank you. The city's position has been affirmed. Mr. Gladden, you may appeal this decision. You can check in
Absolutely.
with the office if you choose to. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
I will.
Have a good evening.
Mhm.
Okay, what's next?
This is for where the final 4 matters on the docket are for 24-19 Cecil B. Moore, intent to cease. Do you want me to read them in individually or?
Yes, read the individual appeals in, and then we will consolidate for purposes of the hearing.
Perfect. Ms. Jones, are you done? Do you want to?
I actually have one. I
No,
have
we're
one more
done.
thing.
Ms. Jones, we have to be done and move on. Thank you so much. Check in with Ms. Curley if you have any other questions. Thank you. Ms. Waite?
Okay. Appeal number 38. Appeal number HA 2022-003-729, 2419 Cecil B. Moore. Beautiful Haywood.
Okay.
Appeal number 39. Appeal number HA 2022-003-730, Sierra Anderson, 2419 Cecil B. Moore Ave. Appeal number 40. Appeal number HA 2022-003-733, Pauline Mebane, 2419 Cecil B. Moore Ave. And appeal number 41, appeal number HA 2022-003-775, Gloria Scott, 2419 Cecil B. Moore Ave.
Okay, who's representing the city in this matter?
Good evening, board members. This is Michael Rouleau on behalf of the city.
Okay. Now we have several appellants for the same address, and this is an intent to cease. So I assume then that these are residents of the property.
That is my understanding. I think it would be helpful just for the purposes of the record if we could have each of the appellants confirm that they
Okay.
are in fact occupants of the property.
Okay, what I will do is call each person's name, swear them in, and ask them to confirm their residency at 2419 Cecil B. Moore Avenue. Ms. Beautiful Hayward, are you present?
She no longer lives here, sir.
Your name?
I'm Gloria Scott.
Okay, well, let's put this on. We'll address that when we come back to it, Mr. Rouleau. Let's move on then to Sierra Anderson.
Yes, that's me, sir.
Would you raise your right hand so that you may be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today be the truth so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you can place your hand down. Are you a resident of 2419 Cecil B. Moore Avenue?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Pauline Mebane.
Yes, I'm here.
Raise your right hand so that you may be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you give today be the truth so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Are you a resident of 2419 Cecil B. Moore Avenue?
Yes, I am.
All right, thank you. And Gloria Scott. This person is muted. I believe that may be
Yes,
Miss
I'm
Scott.
here.
You Miss Gloria Scott?
Yes, I am.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you give today be the truth so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Are you a resident of 2419 Cecil B. Moore Avenue?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. And just for the record, I just want to note that beautiful Haywood did not respond, and Miss Scott offered that Miss Haywood is no longer a resident.
Yes, she no longer lives here.
Okay, just want to make sure the record is clear.
And if we could, just for the purposes of the record, and as the appeal is still active, I would request that that appeal be marked city affirmed for failure to prosecute.
Okay, what we will do at the end of the hearing, we will then rule on each one. Okay.
Understood.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Rulo. Please proceed.
Thank you. I just want to, at the beginning here, frame what the status of this matter is and what the city will be requesting. So as Chairman noted, this matter concerns an intent to cease. As the inspector will testify, this property is an illegal rooming house and exceeds its authorized number of units. And then there is an additional issue of an inoperable fire alarm system. In this instance, upon review of the different appeals that the appellants have filed, I do not believe that any of them are contesting the existence of those violations. Instead, it appears that the request is for additional time. So in that instance, the violations themselves are not subject to dispute here. The testimony that the inspector is going to be put on is going to focus on what the dangers are here, and then to buttress the city's request that the cease be upheld. And then obviously I leave that to the board members based on the appellant's request for additional time.
Okay, thank you.
With that, I would ask that Inspector Williams be sworn in.
Okay, Inspector Williams, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you give today be the truth so help you God?
I do.
All right, thank you. You can place your hand down. Okay, Mr. Rulo.
Inspector Williams, can you please explain what your position is with the Department of Licenses and Inspection?
I'm a code enforcement inspector. I've been at this position for 3 years.
Okay, thank you. Board members, with your permission, I'd like to share something on my screen.
Yes, please.
Inspector Williams, can you see something on the screen that's referred to, excuse me, as City Exhibit A?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go down. So this document is titled Violation Notice and Order to Correct. And as you can see, the notice, the date of that notice is August 19th. Are you familiar with the property located at 2419 Cecil B. Moore Avenue?
Yes, I am.
And have you been out there to inspect that property?
Yes.
I'm going to move down to this section and then zoom in for everyone. There's a number of violations here. So first off, can you identify for the board what the authorized number of units is for this building?
Well, it was zoned for 4 family. That was the last zoning use for it. I mean, last approved zoning. They were operating, there were 2 apartments on the first floor, but there were 3 rooming units. No apartments on the second floor, 1 apartment on the third floor. Trying to confer with my supervisor that they have to have 4 units. They can't have the rooming unit. So that's why that violation was written for the zoning.
And an additional violation here is that the fire alarm system is inoperable. Is that correct?
Yes, there is no power to the fire alarm system.
And what is the setup of those rooming units on the second floor? Is there anything that's missing that needs to be there?
Well, there's no kitchen. I mean, it's not set up as a single family dwelling. It's set up as actual rooms.
But there's no kitchen even accessible for those units?
No.
Okay. I'm going to move down to the next exhibit. Can you see what's been preliminarily marked as City Exhibit B?
Yes.
Okay. Whoops. Okay, and what is this a photograph of?
That's the inoperable fire alarm.
Okay. And so it's reflecting that it is completely inoperable. There's no indication that it's even has electrical at the moment.
Correct.
Okay, I'm gonna move down to another. What is this picture of?
That is the first floor rear door, the rear apartment, I believe.
Okay, and then what is this a photograph
These
of?
are the second floor rooming units.
And you stated that there's 3 separate units up here.
Yes.
Okay, and there's no kitchen for them at all. Okay, and then moving on to
I'm sorry.
What is this a photograph of?
That's the doorway to the third floor. The third floor apartment.
And then what is this a photograph of?
That's the first floor.
Okay. And what are in this context, what are the risks associated with the setup of this property?
Well, with the zoning, I mean, there wasn't that much difference from what they got approved from than what they were using it as, opposed to the second floor just not having the kitchen. But I was instructed by my supervisor to write them for the zoning because, you know, that's what they needed to have. They needed to be operating by that. But the fire alarm was the thing that we kind of, you know, drew our attention, because that fire alarm being inoperable was a big problem for us.
And so it's a combination of both the setup of the building and then the fire alarm not being operative.
Yes.
Okay. And we also don't, does the department have a certification even for that fire alarm system?
No, it is nothing on file. No.
Okay. I have no further questions for Inspector Williams.
Okay, let's do this so we can keep this kind of in order. Is there one person in the group who would represent the group and ask a question of the inspector, only on what he testified to, not to your general statement? Each of you would be getting an opportunity to state your particular problem. But is any one person who would have a question of the inspector? Okay.
Well, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I do. Upon you coming back out here, did you realize there were smoke detectors in here?
Yes.
Excuse me, can she identify herself, please?
Oh,
I'm sorry. Each of you have to identify yourself because your name, for instance, is not on the screen.
Right, I'm Gloria Scott.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Scott. Okay, everyone else's name shows up except for Ms. Scott. So Ms. Scott is the only one that we didn't identify. Ms. Scott, your question was regarding smoke detectors, and Mr. Williams, you responded that there were operable smoke detectors?
Yes, in the common areas.
Common areas.
I've not been in anybody's apartment, but in the common areas of the residents on all floors, there were working smoke detectors.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, let's move on then to, I'll ask each of you to sort of give me a very short description of your current status and why you submitted this appeal. Why don't we start with Ms. Scott, since you have already spoken?
Yes, with the appeal, I was blindsided by it. I have a health aide that come out here. I don't know how long they're giving us to stay here, but I'm requesting some time to get, have my situation moved.
Okay.
As far as, getting the money together, because like I said, this was sudden. This was real quick. We didn't know anything about these violations.
Okay. Ms. Scott, how long have you lived there?
3 years.
And where in the building do you live?
I live in the first floor rear.
And you live in an apartment or a room?
It's an apartment.
How many bedrooms?
It's 1 bedroom. I have a full kitchen and a bathroom.
Okay. Have you spoken to the landlord regarding these violation notices?
The landlord refuses to address any of these issues. As far as he collects rent. That's all he does.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Ms. Sierra Anderson.
Yes, I'm here.
How long have you been a resident?
3 years.
3 years? Okay,
Yeah.
and where do you reside in the building?
I reside in the second room, middle floor.
In the middle floor, second room? Okay. You've been there 3 years also?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Anderson, you said second room, middle bedroom. Is that the second floor apartment you're
Yes.
referencing? Okay,
The
thank you.
second floor room.
The second floor has multiple rooms, not apartments. And she's in one of those rooms on the second floor.
Thank you.
Okay, now, Ms. Anderson, what do you do for cooking? How do you cook? Prepare food?
I usually come downstairs to Miss Gloria's apartment and she lets me cook in there. Or Miss Pauline will let me cook in there.
Okay, do you have a bathroom in your room?
No.
Is there a
Yes.
common bathroom for the roomers?
Yes.
Okay, is that something that only you and the other roomers on the second floor, boarders rather, on the second floor have access to?
Yes.
Okay. Alrighty. Anyone else have any questions? If not, I'll move on then to Miss Gloria Scott. I'm sorry, Miss Pauline Meeban.
Chairman Woodson, very, very briefly, if I could ask a couple questions of Miss Anderson.
Yes.
So you confirm that you live in one of the rooms on the second floor?
Yes.
Right? Okay. Do you have any a hot plate, for example, in your unit?
I do, but it broke like a long time ago.
And do you have a microwave?
No.
Do you have any other devices for doing any sort of cooking there?
No.
Okay. Do you know if any of the other occupants of the units on that floor have items like a hot plate?
I know the back room, it has a kitchen and that's it. And the front room doesn't have anything.
Okay. But you don't know if either of those have like a hot plate like the one you have?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Do you know if any of them have like a microwave? That's it for my questions. Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
Okay, thank you. All right, Miss Pauline Meeban.
Yeah,
How long have you been a resident?
3 years as well.
3 years? Okay.
Yeah.
And which location are you in?
First floor front,
And what type of unit is yours?
efficiency, 1 room, kitchen, bathroom.
Okay, so you live in first floor front. You do have your own kitchen and
Yeah.
bathroom, right? Okay. And one general question, and anyone else other than Ms. Scott can respond. Ms. Scott's already responded. Has any of you spoken directly to the landlord regarding this matter?
No, everything is basically the same. He comes around when it's time for rent. It's been several things that's been going on. Have been reaching out to him, texting him, everything, and his response is, "Oh, I'll get back to you," and never did.
Okay. Has anyone moved out since the posting went up for the cease operations?
Beautiful has, but as far as us, no, because the timing, like with me, I'm on oxygen 24/7, so I need more time to find a suitable place. I have kids, but they're in King of Prussia, they're in Delaware, so it's like hard for me to really try to just get up and go somewhere right now.
Okay. And just for the record, ma'am, how do you pronounce your last name?
Meeban.
Meeban? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mr.
Alrighty.
Chair, I have a question, a general question, and it's very general to the occupants and to the inspector. What type of source of heat do they have in that building? They've been there 3 years. I'm just curious.
You said heat?
Heat, yes.
Well, I have gas.
Electric. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
have any heat in my room.
So am I hearing one has electric, one has gas, and one has no heat?
Yep.
Yeah, basically.
So do the rooming homes, Miss Anderson, have heat or not?
They have heat, like they have heaters and things like that, but they don't work.
So you supplement heat during the winter, what, space heaters and things of that sort?
Yeah.
And we're moving into heat season.
And I'm able to heat because of I have electric stove, so I'm able to turn my stove on if it gets too cold.
Other than that, you have no heat, no.
Yeah, right, basically.
If we could, just for the record, I believe that Ms. Anderson nodded her head in yes in response to Board Member Tennant's question regarding the use of space heaters.
Ms. Anderson, would you respond? Yes, no? We didn't hear you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I'm really nervous now.
Okay.
I'm looking at the report from the inspector that stated that must provide fire extinguishers to first and third floor. I don't think anyone's here from the building, but are there any fire extinguishers in the building?
Yes. I don't know what's on the third floor because there's technically nobody supposed to be up there. I think they all moved out. Everybody moved off the second floor. The only one up there is Sierra and her girlfriend. So yeah.
So there is fire extinguishers on the first and second floor.
Yes.
But we don't know whether they've been inspected and whether they're out of date or whether they're usable or.
Basically, yes. We don't know. They just been sitting there.
Okay. Now, I'm sure all of you can appreciate the fact that the building currently is an illegal configuration. And you're all at risk because you don't have a heating system that's operable for the whole building, which is required. You don't have a central heating, and the use of a cooking device to heat your space is not safe. Even though it's electric, it still isn't safe. And so we need to work with you to help you get out of that space to a better space. But that's where we are. So, Mr. Willow, do you have any general comments to make?
I have no follow-up questions, but I will be very brief. I think that, as you noted, Chairman Woodson, the dangers here are really undisputed and very clear. And I am extremely sympathetic to the situation of all of the appellants in terms of their need to find alternative housing. But in this instance, the city needs to focus on the issue of safety and protecting the occupants. And so in this situation, we're going to be requesting that the cease be upheld. I understand that they have requested additional time, and I leave that to the judgment of the board members. I just want to emphasize that to the extent that the board does provide additional time, to please consider the dangers that are very clear and present.
Okay, thank you. I know that Ms. Anderson indicated, now Ms. Scott indicated that there was a specific time block that she was working with. Ms. Mebane, are you working with a particular time period that would allow you to move?
Yes, I say by the end of the month is good for me.
Okay, Ms. Anderson?
I say about a month.
Okay. And Ms. Scott won't know until she gets some direction from her home health aide. Is that the case, Ms. Scott?
For me, I say about the same thing, a month and a half.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. If there are no further questions, then I will put this on the floor for a vote. Let me get the proper glasses so I can read everything correctly. Before I do that, are there any further comments or statements from the Ms. Haywood, Ms. Anderson, Ms. Anderson, Ms. Mebane, or Ms. Scott?
No.
Okay. No. So let's begin with the first one, HA-2022-003729. Beautiful Haywood, she did not respond when called upon. It's noted on the record that she no longer resides at 2419 Cecil B. Moore Avenue, so that we will have to decide based on those facts. Mr. Pincus, what time do you have?
5:42 p.m.
At 5:42 p.m. We will then hold the board with regard to Ms. Beautiful Haywood, city affirmed non-appearance.
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 Okay, thank you very much. I will, for purposes of the record, read each of the appeal numbers, but the vote will satisfy all the cases. HA-2022-003-730 Sierra Anderson. HA-2022-003-730 2022-003733, Pauline Mebane. HA-2022-003775, Gloria Scott, all of whom reside at 2419 Cecil B. Moore Avenue in various apartments and rooms. City affirms 60-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed 60-day stay of enforcement.
City affirms 60-day stay of enforcement.
City affirms 60-day stay of enforcement.
City affirms 60-day stay of enforcement.
Okay, thank you. The vote is unanimous. Ladies, what we've done is to vote to affirm the city's position here, but to give you 60 days before any additional enforcement action can occur, okay? We pray that you are safe and that you do everything you can to gain and to access better living conditions, okay? That ends our hearing for today. Thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you, board
Okay.
members.
You're welcome. I think that ends our calendar for today. If it does, I just need 1 minute, everybody. Understand, Mr. Pincus, you have to leave, so if you.
Yeah, stop
you
the
have-
recording.
I'm here. I was intrigued because I saw my friend Drew Aldinger.
Let me
on the
stop
line.
the recording.
Okay.
Okay.